we go. This episode is brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta. Winter is coming and energy usage for all Albertans will be increasing. So now is a great time for listeners to look at their utility bills and ensure they are on the best plan. Albertans have a choice who they pay their utility bills to. Park Power is happy to provide free, no obligation comparisons. If you decide to switch providers, it's easy, and you can feel good knowing you are supporting a local business and helping to give back to our communities with your utilities bills. Learn more at parkpower.ca. That's power.ca.
We ain't gonna ever back down from nobody. I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. If one of us goes down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody light me up.
It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District Podcast. Welcome back to the Turf District, where we huddle up to talk all things Edmonton Elks and the CFL. And we're a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported, and also a part of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. I'm Andrew, and thank you for joining us this evening. And we really appreciate you joining us for the show or downloading if you've downloaded. But if you're watching live on YouTube, thank you for joining us. And don't forget to put your questions into the chat below so that we can have lots of things to chat about. Not that we have a hard time chatting with the guests that are with us tonight. But first, let's bring in the usual gang, starting with Superfan Mike.
Yeah, they're both in there.
It was lovely. And the other important part on the screen, you can see we welcome the podcast fantasy champion.
Oh, well, shucks.
Cumberbund.
The Turf District battle.
Yes, the victory Cumberbund will be coming.
Yeah, it's going to be outstanding.
Yeah.
Well done, Superfan. That was very exciting.
It was quite surprising. It was a very tense final game. You and I were sort of back and forth. You had McLeod Bethel Thompson and was it Cam Phillips in the Toronto game? And I
0 points. That was very helpful.
Yeah, I just had Phil Pott. And as it was getting closer and closer to overtime, I'm like, that's it. I'm only up by a couple of points. We go to overtime and it's over. And sure enough, they score the rouge to end the game. So yeah, lucked out.
Yeah. I needed
missed it by this much.
That's right. Yeah. Cam Phillips needed one catch for 30 yards and we're good. It's a tie game. Anyway, well done, Superfan. And tell everyone again, where is your charity money headed?
It's going to the Family Center here in Parkland County.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So congrats once again, Superfan. And I will beat you next year. No, I probably won't. All right. Let's bring in... Let's also bring in Commissioner Kayla. How are you, Commissioner?
Hello. I am not a winner of no fancy belt, but that's okay. I'm a winner of something much better.
You are. You have your prized possession around that you can show
everybody? Of course. First off,
excellent.
Isn't this new top so dope?
Ooh, that's very nice.
Dope top.
Yeah.
I like that one.
But this is way better. Like, let's be honest. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. That is amazing.
Yes.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it.
Yeah, we'll allow it. And
I
you
wouldn't care if you did. I would.
Yeah, that's true. But you got to meet him after the game too, right?
I did.
Got a picture taken.
Mm-hmm. I was hesitant. I was like, should I? I don't know. Like, I don't want to be that girl. But like, game ended and I was like, just kidding, I am that girl. Booked it. I was like, showed my media pass. I'm like, ran on field and he knew exactly who I was as soon as I showed the jersey. So
oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah, very happy for you. It was amazing. All right, let's bring in our guests because we have a lot to talk
Yes.
about this evening. You know them as the greatest radio voices on the radio talking about football. It is one Morley Scott and Dave Campbell. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We're glad that you guys are here. I mean, we're glad that because we get to talk to you. We're not glad because we're talking about our season wrap up before November. So that's the the downside, I guess. But
It's weird. It's weird. Last year, the season ended November 19th in Vancouver. And then a couple days later, they had the season ending avail. And then the day after, on the Monday, they fired everyone. And here we are this year. It's
Good times.
October 24th, and we're done. It's the earliest that we've ever been done. So it's kind of weird this year. It's like the off season is starting way too early. And usually you say that if you don't make the playoffs. I remember in 18 when they were 9-9, we were done like first weekend in November. Well, we're done, third weekend in October in 22. It's a little strange, but it is what it is.
I think it's going to be pretty weird for everybody with the Elks done and then watching regular season games coming up this weekend. It's going to be a weird feeling for sure.
Well, and not only that, but regular season games that don't mean anything. So we have everything is decided, which we will talk about as well, because I'm curious to see what you guys think how the season goes. But I do want to talk about the latest game too. But before we do that, tell us a little bit what this season was like for you guys. I mean, there was a ton of changes with the team, but it felt more like a normal season as compared to last year. So what was the overall feeling for you guys this season? Morley, let's start with you.
It was good to be back to normal. It was good to have a full training camp. It was good to have preseason games. It was good to have a full schedule. The weirdest part for me all season was just the players moving in and moving out. So many of them all season long. I mean, it was, I understand why, and I know, what was going on and what Chris Jones was trying to accomplish, basically extending his training camp and trying to find players. And then the injury situation forced him to make, I think, more moves than he wanted to make or needed to make, but he had to because of the injury situation. But yeah, that part of it, like, it was over 100 players on the roster throughout the season. So that's a lot of names to keep track of. And it was, I found it more challenging than other years to remember and make sure you knew who was in and who was out from week to week, because it wasn't as easy as it had been in years past. That's for sure. What I do, when I talk about the year, to me, it was great to have Chris Jones back. I mean, I love talking football with Chris Jones. The stories he can tell, the people he knows, the details he talks about, the things he knows about the game that most people don't or will never know is pretty incredible. I really enjoyed my time, and he was so gracious with Dave and I. Pre-game, post-game shows were terrific with him this year because he had a chance to go off the handle if he wanted to in a few games because of the way they lost, but he didn't. He was very composed, very thoughtful, and very genuine. And right up to the last post-game show where he, we said goodbye to him, but he came back and wanted to apologize to the fans for the season and promised them that he was going to be doing everything he could the offseason to try and fix things. So to me, he's the takeaway for me is the fact that that he is back in charge, and I think the team's got a pretty clear pathway formed now. And now it comes down to making sure you get the right players in the right place, and I think they're on the right step to that.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Dave?
Okay, well, it wasn't totally normal to begin with because you had the strike. Okay. There were only two teams that started camp on time, and then we thought they had a deal, so everyone else comes back. And then, the players are not ratifying the deal because a bunch of them didn't vote and a bunch of them didn't understand that you should vote. But anyway, so here's Morley going off to Winnipeg on a Wednesday without having any idea if there's going to be a game on Friday. Then here I go a day later, and so my timeline, I woke up, didn't look good. Nothing. It didn't look good at all. I'm going, we're going to have a free day in Winnipeg. Great. Then I get to the airport and I look at my phone, and my buddy Farhan Lalji of TSN is tweeting, oh, things are starting to turn around, because I'll tell you, it didn't look that way, a few hours earlier. And get to Winnipeg, and tentative agreement. Oh, great. So now the vote happens. The vote happened, I think, like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, Winnipeg time. And then 20 minutes later, we find out the vote, and then we're all happy. And then Leon passes to Connor to beat the Flames in Game 5 in overtime to advance to the Western Conference Final. Everything is happy. So, the preseason game happens. One of the best moments of the season, no one saw, that was Nick Arbuckle hitting Caleb Hawley for one of the best touchdowns we have seen all season, until, we saw Kenny Lawler and Dylan Mitchell and all those guys. So we get through the preseason, first regular season game in Vancouver. I go home, COVID hits our house, and I'm out of commission for 2 games, and I'm sitting in this office here, and I'm a studio analyst and not a color analyst, so thanks to Ryan King and to Blake Dermott. And I appreciate that Ryan King noticed that Morley's chair is way better than mine, and that's garbage. So, I appreciate that from Kinger. And then, God came back Canada today, and it was fine after that. My thoughts on the season are this, and I remember we did the show day before Chris Jones was hired, which I know sucked for all of you, because here's the show and he's hired anyway. I don't think that's going to happen. Something like that's going to happen this time. But I remember saying, because it was December 19th or something like that when he was hired. I said, here's my feeling on this. When he inherited the team back in 2013, he had a core. No core this time. No core. I mean, you look at that team in 21, you're not going to bring many of those guys back anyway. But he brought, a handful. But he basically dismantled the house right down to the studs. And as Morley told me one time during the season, no, he took some studs away too. And I'm like, yes, you're right. So yes. I really don't know. I really didn't know what this was going to be like. I hearken back to that second preseason game at home, and they lost 37-7 to the Stampeders. It's just preseason, but it kind of made a lot of people go, what happened here? And then I'm realizing, no, some of these players have to play next week because there's so many injuries. Right. And then they got caved in. So, I mean, for me, am I surprised they were 4-14? I don't know, because I expected they were going to struggle. But here's the thing. When you have expectations that are good and high, and you're a Grey Cup contender or you're a playoff contender, you kind of know where to set the bar. But when you're going to struggle, where do you set the bar? What's an acceptable level of struggle? There is an acceptable level of struggle. It just is what it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, let's see. They got blasted in basically 5 games. There were, I don't know what you call the game on Friday, whether they lost by a couple of possessions or, 3 possessions, whatever. So maybe you include that. They lost 6 games where they had a chance to win. And Morley and I did the somber math in the booth last week. They won at practice, and they had the lead in 6 games, either at half or in the fourth quarter, and got beat 92-39. That was the point differential, 92-39. That's getting caved in. And then there were 4 games that they won, where they came from behind in most of them. The one game that they controlled was in Ottawa, but still had to come from behind. And then they beat the Riders in dramatic fashion. So to me, it was, they're kind of knocking on the door of being a second-tier team or a middle-tier team, in my opinion. But a lot of, like Morley said, the constant carousel of players was tough. A lot of that was from injury. A lot of that was, the impatience, I think, of Chris Jones. And then it was good to see by around Labor Day, he stopped that, and he kind of rode with a certain group for the most part. But it was disappointing. And I know for himself, he's so ultra competitive. Chris Jones is, and I remember at training camp, he said, "This is a big job. This is huge undertaking that we have decided to take on here." But he still expects to win, expects to win Grey Cups, right? But I think maybe in his quiet moments, he probably thinks that they were not very close to that. But his competitive nature just never stops. I mean, he was asked a question on Saturday from someone saying, "So how do you decompress?" And he said, "I don't know what that is. Decompressing is winning to me." And he's going to leave on Wednesday for a scouting trip. So, he just never stops, and until this team wins a championship, he's just not going to stop. And even at that, he's not going to stop. But there's no for him right now. He's not happy with the season, and he's going to try and fix it, along with G. Roy Simon and everyone else.
Yeah, which is exactly what, I mean, to some degree, what we kind of expected. It was going to be, it's a rebuild year. We knew that. We knew it was going to take a while for them to get everybody together. So, and I know all of our favorite Penguin is in the chat, and he just said, at least we saw potential this year. There was no potential last year, and that's kind of what it did feel like. So I think this year feels a little bit different, even though we didn't, win at home. And
it's funny when you say something like that. I remember at the start of the season, I went back over last season, the 21 season, and I was looking for, we're building promos and we're building an opening for the new season, and I'm looking for highlights, and I couldn't find any. There just wasn't a lot of excitement in the games last year, even, and then you flash forward to this year, and there was, even the games they lost, you saw something, you went away saying, yeah, that was pretty good. He played well, or he did this, or that was a great play, or whatever. I mean, for the first time after Kevin Brown arrived, for example, and Dylan Mitchell, when they hit the lineup, that was probably the first time in a year and a half where you were saying, I want to see this guy get the ball. You're excited to see a player, and you wanted him to get the ball. You wanted to see what he could do next. And we hadn't had that for a long time around here. So I think that's part of the process that they went through this year, finding those two guys especially. And it's great that they announced a contract extension for Mitchell today, which is certainly great news. But yeah, that's the difference. There was something there this year. Last year, I walked away from those 3 games in 7 days to end the season going, wow, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I mean, this team, it had no spark. It had no excitement. It had no energy. The fans were just all upset about everything, wanted everybody fired. They got their wish, and they've taken the next steps moving ahead this year. So, yeah, it's, to me, this year, at the end of this year compared to the end of last year, vastly different. The win totals aren't different, 4-14 compared to 3-11. It's not different, but it is different. It feels different to me, and I hope the fans understand that too, because it was a mess. I mean, they had a lot. Chris Jones and his team had a lot to clean up, and they went to work, and that's why we saw so many players, because they had to find the guys they wanted. And I think they're closer to that, and they're going to add guys to that, to that group of guys that they've come away this season with, and try and improve them and make them even better. Jones said on Saturday, biggest things for him is free agency and the draft. They're already working hard on the U.S. side of things to get free agents, but the CFL free agency and the Canadian draft are going to be 2 very, very important steps for them this season to continue the rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to talk more about that as we kind of get excited about what's coming next. But let's quickly go over this last game, because the Elks fall to the Lions 31-14. I guess one of the biggest parts, and maybe for you guys too, Chris Sheets being it's his last game, and his last game on the sidelines. He's been there for a long time, and I know it was emotional for him. I think it was emotional for a lot of fans, but it was a good send off. Other than we didn't get the win, but he did get the proper send off, I feel. But there was a lot of other good in this game. So before I get to you guys, I just because I want to give Mike and Kayla a chance to chat a little. But Mike, what'd you find good in this game?
I thought that seeing Trey Ford using his legs and being very successful with it was great. I mean, he had a 9-yard average running the ball. Passing the ball, there was certainly some sparks there, but you could see that he's a rookie that had a lot of rust. He had his touchdown throw, but he had a couple of interceptions. And then, of course, Kevin Brown. So, I mean, obviously I focus on the running game a lot. Brown didn't have the greatest game running, but as a receiver, he was our top receiver of the game. So his total yards from scrimmage was almost 100 yards. I think it was 85 yards, something like that. So at least on offense, I thought it was pretty good.
I have to applaud you for your line for the total yards running for the Elks last week, where you said 109.5 and they finished with 108. That was pretty
not bad.
Just under. Yeah. So you won, super fan. All right, Commissioner, What's your good in this game?
Oh, I mean, it really has nothing to do with the game at all. Well, it does, but to see my two favorite quarterbacks play against each other, like that was a send off that, I mean, I was happy regardless. It was so nice to see Trey Ford back. And again, like you said it best, there was definitely some rust that had to be shaken off, but there was moments of glory that you just saw at training camp and a few of the games at the beginning of the season. And I think he definitely has something really, really special. And I don't know what next year is going to hold, but I really hope and pray that he stays with this team. I don't know what that means, that Cornelius got extended for 2 years.
Yep, that's
yes.
correct.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe David Morley can chat about that a little bit later. But I mean, it just kind of goes to the same. Like I love to see Dylan Mitchell. I think he is another rising star, and I'm not biased for the name Mitchell. It's just so happens we had a B Mitch, now we have a D Mitch. So, but yeah, my good was just to see Trey Ford back out there, and I think he's an exceptional quarterback, an exceptional person, and I would have liked to have seen the win, but I can't complain seeing Vernon Adams versus Trey Ford. So that was my good.
that is a great one. All right, Dave, what do you got to build off on those?
So here's what I liked. And so I'll start with what I didn't like. I mean, after this really good start, the defense just went away. I mean, they didn't even show up, and I wasn't happy with the run defense. Is it any coincidence that they have given up 100 yards plus rushing in 4 straight games when a young man named Niles Morgan was in the middle linebacker?
Not a coincidence.
They miss him big time. Yes, exactly, Morley. But it bothered me. This has happened, I think, so many times this season, where it was a 10-7 game for a long time with about 5 minutes to go in the half. And then they give up 2 scores quickly. And they're down by, what was it, 20 or 17 points, 24. I think it was. Yeah. And it's that's tough. But, you could fold the tents and say, it's 30 minutes left. We're 30 minutes away from the off season. Let's just try and get through this, right? They battled. They battled well. I thought all 3 phases battled very well in the second half. And obviously there was a lot of mistakes. Trey made some mistakes. There was mistakes in all 3 phases, but you know what? They battled. And I think that's what impresses me over the last 2 games and really all season. But the last 2 games when you're eliminated, this coaching staff did a good job of, and the players deserve credit too, is that they cared. These last 2 games mattered. So I was very impressed that the last 30 minutes mattered to this team. And even though they could only produce 7 points, and they missed out on 2 scores, I thought that was positive in my opinion. I think the character of the team is very high, and the fact that they decided they were going to stay in battle for the final 30 minutes after a rough first half was very impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean,
they got the bit of the spark with the interception in the end of the second quarter, but that kind of carried over to the second half. I agree.
But the second quarter really was the tale of the game to me. It was, we scored 14 points outside of that. They scored 14 points outside of that. It was just the 17-0 run they had in that second quarter that was the tale of the game.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
What about you, Morley?
For me, I come away from the game, first off, the effort that everybody put in. And like Dave was talking about, they could have easily folded their tents, especially when they got down, but they didn't. But the biggest takeaway for me was Trey Ford and just getting a chance to see, when we saw him play earlier in the year, it was, 4 games in, and he was just learning to be a pro, and he was just learning the playbook. He's had a lot of time on the injured list since then, since getting hurt the next week in Calgary, to become more of a pro, to study the playbook and just learn and watch and everything. And I think we saw so many good things from him. Just the way he can throw the football. Let's not kid ourselves on
Mhm.
that. Despite the fact everyone calls him a running quarterback, he can throw the football. We saw that. It was an absolute beauty he threw to Dylan Mitchell for the
Oh,
opening touchdown of the game. Just a tremendous pass. He can run. He can generate with his feet. He can throw the ball. He's got to learn to read things a little bit better, I think. And, that being said, a lot of good stuff, but we also saw a lot of raw stuff, a lot of stuff that says he was in Waterloo last year. Let's not forget that, right? He wasn't playing in a big U.S. college, and he wasn't, in that pro style. So he's got a lot to learn still. But man, the sky's the limit with this kid, and I think him and Cornelius next year are going to be a great combination. They have to figure out a way to kind of get them both on the field. And I think that's going to be on Chris Jones and Stephen McAdoo to figure out a way to get them both on the field enough to make an impact. But yeah, they could be a pretty good combination for a couple of years, both signed for the next 2 years as well, which is certainly good news. I really like the way he battled too, because things didn't go well for him after the touchdown pass. Things didn't go well for him for a while. And then all of a sudden he had, he was under 100 yards passing pretty deep into the game. And then all of a sudden it just kind of clicked for him. And granted, I think BC might have taken their foot off the pedal a little bit, but he took advantage of that, which is what you have to do. And he finished with 270 some yards passing, and could have had 2 more touchdowns, right? I mean, he just missed Darrell Walker, who was wide open at the 10-yard line with nobody around him. Actually, he missed seeing Walker at the back of the end zone too late in the game. And then that one that went into Kai Loxley's hands and out right at the end of the game. He could have produced more points, but didn't get a lot of help and made some mistakes. So to me, that's the goal. That's what I take away from the game. I was really looking forward to watching him play. And man, I loved some of the flashes we saw, some of the stuff we saw. Like, oh wow, that guy can do it. He's an athlete, and he can throw the ball, he can run with the ball. But there's lots to learn still. So we're all going to have to be patient with him. He's not, Taylor Cornelius is coming in as a starting quarterback next year. There's no doubt about that in my mind of the group that they have now, and it's his job, and he'll start the season there. But they got to figure out a way to move Trey Ford in and give him an opportunity to get better and advance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And on that passing note, that when he threw that touchdown to Dylan Mitchell, I turned to Nicole and said, "That man, I haven't seen a ball thrown like that since James Franklin was here. What a beautiful throw that was! It's just a beautiful spiral arc. Love it. I'll take it.
One of the best fade throws you will see. It was a thing of beauty.
Yeah,
and the way that the trajectory of the ball, how it changed. I mean, if you watch it, that ball, just how he threw it, it fades away from Gary Peters. It actually moves away from Gary Peters. It was a beautiful fade throw, and great catch by Mitchell as well. So
that's what I was saying at training camp.
It was. You were saying that. That is.
It was
true.
angelic. Angels carry that ball. Like, that's how beautiful it is.
It's for you, Trey. It's for you, D. Mitch. There you go. Sorry, Gary, not today.
I thought he underthrew it, and then it just
he did not
carry perfectly right to the right spot. It was beautiful.
Chef's kiss.
Beautiful. I'll take it. All right, well, we could dwell on more bad stuff, but let's not do that. Let's get on to some more good and bad in 2022. So you talked about there's some bright spots to build on. We talked about them signing Dylan Mitchell 3-year contract to the end of 2025. I was really impressed that it was a 3-year contract. That's amazing. So everyone knows you can get that jersey, and he'll be around for a while. But guys, tell us, what are the other bright spots that you saw? Who are the other bright players or bright spots in the coaching even that you think that we're going to build on for next year?
Well, I'll start. To me, it's Kevin Brown. Like, that's the brightest spot. Yeah. If I pick a guy on offense and a guy on defense, I pick Kevin Brown on offense. He was magnificent. I don't know. I know his numbers, his average and everything took a dip on the game on Friday night because he wasn't as successful as he had been. But the kid's a keeper. There's no doubt about that. Really, really sparked the offense. I mean, he can do it on the ground. He's showed himself pretty reliable out of the backfield as a receiver as well. So to me, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to seeing on offense moving forward. On defense, I would go with Enoch Makonza, who was a first-round draft pick and didn't start the season as a starter, worked on special teams and got injured, missed a couple of games and then came back. But when he was moved into the starting position, at that linebacker spot, he just took off. He just settled in. He's just a really good football player. He gets to the ball carrier. He makes tackles. He made a lot of tackles in the time he was a starter. And I think the sky's the limit for this guy as well. He could be a very, very good player moving forward. So to me, those are the two bright spots, one on offense, one on defense. If I had to pick something on special teams, it's Christian Salisbury, who really came on at the end of the year and solved maybe a problem that's bugged this team for a long, long time, and that's getting a consistent kick returner in place. So to me, those are the positives moving forward. There's lots of other things. There was some other good young players that came aboard from Dylan Mitchell and, on offense. And I think I really liked Donovan Olamba at the end of the year at the cornerback spot. Had an interception in the game on Friday. Didn't get a stat in his first CFL game, which is pretty good because usually they'll be picking on you, right? Playing your first CFL game. But receivers on his side never got open, so he didn't have to tackle him. So he played pretty well. So there's lots of guys, that are, if they sign and come back, they're going to take the next step and be a better team.
So if I discuss the return game, is it going to scurry away? I think that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to declare that this team has a return game because it might run away scared.
It's like Groundhog Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let the special team see their shadow. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but he came aboard. I know he was in camp, and I was pretty impressed with him in camp, but I didn't see him. I don't recall we saw him much as a returner. I think that was more Jalen Marshall. But he comes in, I believe, Labor Day rematch. So from Labor Day rematch to the end of the season, I mean, how many games is that? About 5 games? Something like that? 5-6 games? So,
yeah, 6.
Yeah. So he produced 3 punt returns of 30 yards or more, 2 kickoff returns of 40 yards or more, and I believe he had a 35-40-yarder on a missed field goal. In 5 games, he had 6 explosion returns. What's an explosion return? That's what fans of this team, what is an explosion return? Other than our special teams, you look at them and you go, they're gone.
You used to have implosion returns.
Yes. Oh.
Catch and fall down.
Just got it. That was good, Morley. I'll say this about
I'm a professional, Dave.
Yes, I know. Anyway, falling apart here. The special teams at the beginning of the year was the worst phase of this group, which is hard to say because the other 2 weren't very good. But it was awful. They couldn't cover kickoffs or punts. They couldn't return. Sergio Castillo was struggling. Matt Mengel came in pretty good the first few games and then had a couple of struggles. And then Chris Jones really wanted John Ryan to come in. And I thought John struggled a bit, and they had the block kicks and all that, and that was frustrating. But then by the end of the season, I'm going, this phase might be their most consistent now. I mean, the way that they perform, the way that they operate, the return game, the cover game. I mean, it looks goofy what Sergio Castillo does on kickoff, but it works because you're giving it into the hands of a returner who's not a returner.
Yeah.
And they have to think about, can I recover this ball? Can I field this ball cleanly? And there was a number of occasions that, 3-4 that didn't happen. But that gives the cover team a chance to just go down and lay a lick on an unsuspecting returner. So it didn't look all that great. I mean, you're giving up some yardage, but at the same time, you're like, no, hey, we'll take the ball in the 37 or the 38 instead of risking a deep kick and having a returner gash us anyway. And then Sergio Castillo, the way he turned around. It was John Ryan that turned him around. On Saturday, during the final media avail, Sergio said, before John Ryan came in, I was clipping at 78% a success rate in field goals. That's not very good. And he says after John Ryan, it was 95%.
Amazing.
He calmed Peter Adjei down, and he helped Sergio Castillo. I mean, it was amazing, the turnaround. And then, we're going to miss John Ryan as a punter. He's one of the greatest punters in pro football, but he's one of the greatest holders in pro football as well. So the special teams for me is the big story. And I think, again, the character of the group, and last year's team, I'm not going to say this about everyone, but there wasn't enough quality when it comes to character on the team. This team has good character. They enjoyed playing with each other. They enjoyed being under this coaching staff. They enjoyed being here, and I think you're going to see that played out with the number of extensions that I'm sure is going to be announced between now and February, whenever free agency begins in early February. So those are two that I would pinpoint as positive.
I mean, that's awesome. I agree with all the picks you guys had. Jake Serezna is another guy that I thought had a stellar year. No longer a surprise, really, for most of us. He's just one of those guys that's sort of taken over, especially with Almondo having left a few years ago. And it seems to be that he is the straw that stirs that drink on the D-line.
When he came back from his injury, he was unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he had 9 sacks in 9 games, the first 9 games back, and that's pretty incredible from the inside, especially. Although he was moving outside a little bit on some plays and stuff, but yeah, he had a monster year for sure. There's no doubt about that, and he'll be a guy. And we talked to him on Saturday, and he wants to come back. He might get some NFL interest, but he wants to come back. He wants to be a part of it. He's got a lot of faith in Chris Jones and what he's trying to do and what he's building, and he wants to be back. That's another thing that hit me on Saturday. I talked to a lot of guys, some of them on, some of them off the record, and the general feeling I got was they want to be back, veteran players. They want to be back because they can feel things are about to turn. They feel that they're close, and they know that Chris Jones is going to make the right additions over the offseason that will hopefully get them over the top. And I don't mean they're going to go from 4-14 to 14-4, but they got an opportunity to really, I think, vie for a playoff spot. And when you look ahead, Saskatchewan's got some big issues to deal with, and we've been saying this for 10, 12 years now. Calgary's going to take a step back, right? And maybe they've started to now with a 3rd place finish again. So yeah, who knows? I think with the right additions, they certainly have the right frame of mind and the right character. But they got to make some additions. They got to be better. Let's be honest. They got to win some home games, right? That would be nice. And they got to be a better football team. There's no doubt about that. But they got the bricks laid right now, so they're getting there.
Finally have a foundation that we can build off.
Exactly, a group of players who you can say, this is our core group of guys. These are the guys we're going to build around. Now let's go out and bring some guys in and add to the list.
Oh, for sure. So we talked about some of the good stuff. Let's sort of flip that coin. What were some of the hardest stuff for you guys to watch over this last season? I mean, you talked about very few players came back. I think I counted there was 20 players that played a snap in 2021 that were actually on the roster, and I think 7 or 8 of them got traded or cut during the season. What was the hardest parts for you guys, especially from your vantage point to watch?
Hardest part for me was every BC Lions game.
Yep.
Those were hard to watch. For whatever reason. The Lions had the Elks number this year. A lot of that was Nathan Rourke in the first 2 games for sure. But yeah, to me, and Dave, we spent so much time talking about this with Chris Jones and with some of the players. Just the 60-minute game, right? They could never. Yeah. They looked really good at times, and then that same team that looked really good, next quarter looked really bad. And they went from, we saw it on Friday night, up 7-0 and playing well, to down a bunch and no hope. And we saw that so many times. So, whether it be the other team got up early and then they started to come back and play better, or vice versa. To me, that was the biggest Achilles heel on this team, is that they could not play 60 minutes and they could not play together. When the defense was good, the offense wasn't. When the special teams were good, neither defense was stopping or offense was scoring. And, they never all got together to play 60 minutes of football. And when I think about it, there weren't many games where they're even close to that. We saw flashes, we saw some real good spurts from all 3 sides of the ball, but it was rarely in the same quarter of a football game. And I think that cost them a lot of games over the season.
Yeah, it's just, when they played complimentary football, you sure got flashes to, this is Chris Jones football. Like this is really Chris Jones football. Like, they play tough, they play with the killer instinct, they play with the attitude. But I think what's disappointing to me is, and Chris Jones used a couple of phrases on our post-game show about, one being the lack of concentration, and he says it starts in practice, and it's basically just staying in the game mentally. And when it went south, it was spectacular. Like I talk about those crazy runs that they would allow in points, and this team couldn't get it back together at all. You were waiting for the bad thing to happen, and I think they were waiting for the bad thing to happen because it was in their heads. I think by the end of the year, it got a bit better, but still, you look at the game against the Argos, when you're leading or tied for most of it and you relinquish the lead for the first time with 27 seconds to go, you either can or you can't. This isn't a try league. You can or you can't. They can't. Good teams know how to win in the fourth quarter. Bad teams lose in the fourth quarter. And you look at the Grey Cup year in 2015. How many games did they win by the skin of their teeth? Chris Jones plays very razor edge, low event football, tough defensive football, time of possession on offense. Sean White had to kick a 53-yarder. Morley and I, remember the game in Calgary where that was 16-12. I mean, they just played so well defensively, but they believed. So we go back to the Argo game. The Argos believed that they were going to win. The Elks believed they were going to screw it up somehow. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
The other thing that the other phrase that comes to mind from Chris Jones on our post-game shows, he says, we need to play with a certain level of intelligence. And this is where penalties come into play. I remember the second game against the Riders in Edmonton on August 13th. And the Riders come in and they pull a lot of, there's a lot of after whistle stuff. They're extra push, extra comment, that sort of thing. And it's unbelievable how so many players, okay, maybe just a handful. I mean, mild-mannered Mark Cordy got ejected because he got two misconduct penalties. Like, that's crazy. Niles Morgan got one. I think Kyle Loxley got one. I hope I'm not mixing up games because it happened too many times this year where they just did not play with a lot of smarts, and I think that probably got better by the end of the year. I don't think it was a level of smarts the way they lost. I think it's just, one, they're not good enough, and two, belief played into it. And, they're just not a really, finished product yet, of course. But, for me, I think the level of belief, the mental side of the game is something that they will have to improve, but it's all experience. So, I expect a number of these players to be back next year with the support of other players that are signed, brought in, that sort of thing. And let's see what this group does. But, for me, it's just playing, you got to play three-phase football to win. And, playing 60-minute games is hard in any sport, and it's definitely hard in football. But if you play complementary football for the most part and be that team in the fourth quarter that just is so steely and stubborn and says, I don't care how we're playing, we're not losing this game. That's the next level I think this team needs to get to.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you have some of that shining spots and some of the negative, and I think that plays into the complement, at least the good stuff, the positive stuff, plays very complementary to what happened off the field for the Elks as well. So for you guys, I know we can all agree on one huge, bright, shining star that happened off field, but what were some of the best parts that happened for you guys off field? Not so much with the players and the coaching, but let's say in office, in-house stuff.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, who wants to go first? Everybody jump in at the same time. Yeah.
I just think it just felt normal. Like we were able to kind of be ourselves again. And, it just felt, other than I'm, missing 2 games with COVID. I mean, for the most part, it just felt more like a normal year. Like by the end of it, it just felt like how it should feel. I don't know, off the field, it was, if we relate it to the football team, I'm so happy there's no turmoil with this team, even though there's a section of the fan base who, I may compare to Oiler Twitter, who, everything is a problem.
Yeah.
Because they love finding problems.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there isn't problems, but there's no turmoil with this team anymore. This is a good group to deal with. And I really enjoyed the year, where honestly last year was just like get me to the off season. Like there was a part of there was some relief that the season was over this year, but there was some sadness because, you know, this is a good group. This is a really good group to deal with. So, it was just nice to just have more of a normal season where, you know, we could kind of, well, not kind of, we got together more, we were around people more, and I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go with it too. The thing that I enjoyed getting back to this year that we missed in 2021, all the interviews we did with players were via Zoom or from 6 feet away. I enjoyed getting into a situation where you could stand beside a guy and do a one-on-one interview and talk to him, or I could go up to a guy after practice and just sit down and talk with him. And I remember having some great chats with a couple of guys during the season, just talking with them. No microphone, nothing was rolling on it. We were just talking and talking about football and talking about their families and stuff like that. And I just love that aspect of it again, to be able to get back to finding out some cool stories, because to me, the players' stories are so great. Every player on the team has some sort of great story to tell. And it was so hard in 2021 to find those stories because we couldn't get any time with the players. This year, we were able to go up to a player after practice and just talk to him, just shoot the breeze and just say, hey, how's it going? What was it like? You know, your first game, who you got watching, whatever the case may be. And it was, to me, that was, because that's what I love doing. That's what I love, talking to the players and finding out some stories. And we got to do that again this year, which is maybe away from the game and off the field. That was maybe my biggest takeaway this year.
Do you find too, like the communication from the Elks, like in-house staff, was different, maybe more positive, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like as far as with Victor leading the helm and stuff, how did that change?
Yeah, I mean, I think that turned around a lot last year with the communication staff they put in place, led by Evan Dom, and then they added Hernan Salas this year, who did a great job. You know, the cool thing about this year was we talked to those guys face to face. 21, it was all via text and you know, an email and stuff. So it was good. It was good. I think you know, the relationship with us and the team is pretty solid, and I think it goes back and forth. We had some great communication this year, and I think everything's fine there. So it's, you know, that's all part and parcel of being able to talk to each other again face to face and you know, sort things out.
Yeah, absolutely. There were so many good parts about it, and I think about, you know, tailgate and all the people that showed up there and all the people that showed up to west of us.
Can I say, by the way, I went out to the tailgate for about 15 minutes on Friday night, and that really really warmed my heart a little bit, because it was so cool, despite the situation that the team was in. I think everybody realized that, you know, this is it. It was good to be among my friends. I'm having a good time. And it just looked like so many people were having such a good time out there on Friday night. And it was kind of cool to see, because I don't get out there very often. A couple times a year, I get out there and grab a quick smoky or something from anybody who'll give me food and then talk to people. And it was so cool. It was, you know, walking through and everybody's saying hi and everybody's talking to me, and everybody just seemed like in such a good mood, which I thought was, you know, considering the way the season had gone, was kind of strange. But I mean, that's such an important part of the Canadian Football League. You know, the camaraderie of the fans and the CFL hashtag CFL family, right? You know, that's kind of what it's all about. And I think on Friday night, I saw that in full force, you know, when nobody was happy with the way things are going on the field, and no one really had any great expectations for the night ahead. But man, they're having a good time at the tailgate. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, we had a lot of those this year where it didn't really matter what was going on inside. Everyone was good to just hang out and we had so many people from other teams coming, which was great. We were missing that before too. So lots of good things to see there and to build on for sure. We're going to do a really quick hoard and tell, and then we'll get into some of our looking forward to 2023. But before we do that, this episode is also brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Life as a business owner can be hectic, to say the least, and Alberta Blue Cross understands that. They offer flexible health, dental, life, and disability coverage for your employees. Even better, They can let your staff enroll and manage their coverage at any time and on any device. That makes life easier for them and for you. You've got this when it comes to group coverage for your small business, and Alberta Blue Cross has your back. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca. That's ab.bluecross.ca. And back to the show. And I knew that I got the top one all smooth, so I had to screw that one up somewhere. Okay. Superfan, do you have a bit of a horde for us this
Yeah,
evening?
I received something this week that I thought was kind of cool. It's one of those slightly different things that I didn't know existed, so it's always kind of fun to see. I've sort of brought some of this before, and these are always kind of fun. These are bobbleheads from the 1960s.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Got the 00 on the back, absolutely sort of that cherubic kind of face right here. This is sort of an early 60s, 1960, 61, 62, when we had the stripes on the shoulder like that. There was a similar one that would have come out the year before, and that looks like this one. This one's got a base made out of wood. This one's got a ceramic base. They're about an inch apart. This is 7, this is 6 inches. And the one I got today, or sorry, this week, is a little 5-inch version here. As you can see, it's even smaller than this one. Absolutely tiny. It does have the name of the city on the back. And just so you can sort of compare what a modern one might look like. And I have to admit, I did this one just for our guests here. There's a lovely little modern bobblehead there. It's kind of lifelike, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Well, it's not talking, so it's not lifelike.
Well, that's fairly true.
I have one to my left. There's more than two. There's more than one of them. It's scary.
Yeah, isn't that terrifying? I mean, it's almost the third quarter of this podcast. I thought it was a good time to bring out Halsey, and we can all sing the anthem there. But yeah, so as I said, it's one of those things that early '60s there was just an absolutely phenomenal time for collectors across the league. I did get along with it. Let me see if I can grab that. There's a BC Lions one.
Nice.
Ooh, cool.
And Montreal Alouettes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so those kind of all came together. So I got a few things for the trade pile to go along with the Edmonton one. So yeah,
When I saw that one coming up and it was red, I'm like, you don't have
No.
Montreal. Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we're safe.
I was gonna say, whew, that was a close one. I have a little bit of quick hoard and tell to add on that I'm just gonna do this evening.
Bring it.
I have some family friends that like I've known since I was probably 3. So it was always Auntie Debbie and Uncle Barry, and they, not directly related, but family friends. And unfortunately, Uncle Barry passed away earlier this year, and I got a message from my aunt saying, well, he has these hats that are Elks hats. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in them. And little did I know until she sent me the pictures that they had some signatures on them. So here's one, and I know that Mike, you'll be able to read out so you've got
There's Moss, AJ Gas.
Yep. Ed Hervey over there. Yep. We've got and of course our good friend Rick in the middle there, so that's good, and even a Tom Higgins in there. So that's
very nice.
You don't very regularly see, so I thought, that's kind of cool. And then the second one, and I had one of these hats back when it happened. And that one also has a bunch of signatures on it there. So some really good stuff. And I was really happy to be able to add those to my collection with some signatures that I hadn't even seen forever. So that was kind of nice to have. So
Very
that's
awesome.
my little addition to the Hoard and Tell this evening. Now let's talk about 2023, because we just talked about some bright spots on this team. I guess the first question is, are they looking for a new in-game host, and where do I apply? No, I'm kidding. But we talked about some of the bright stars. What are all the guys that you guys think that they build around for this team? They obviously, you said, Kevin Brown, Taylor Cornelius.
Have that list that we compiled, Morley?
I was just looking. My briefcase is too far away to reach. Dave and I did that exact same thing this week at practice.
Okay.
We wrote down all the numbers of guys that we say, they're a part of it moving forward. There's actually more numbers than I thought there would be when we went through it all, which is kind of nice, because that kind of shows maybe you're further ahead than you thought, right? But yeah, we've kind of touched on the guys for the most part. You got Kevin Brown and Dylan Mitchell, and I think there's a couple of guys on offense that I'd like to see come back, older guys who were instrumental and had some success, and one of them would be Darrell Walker, who, despite having a slow start and some injuries, finished with over 800 yards this year. So he would have had 1,000 yards if he would have played every game this year. So I think he still can, he can still help. And he's a guy who said he wants to be back next year. Kenny Lawler would be great to have back as well in that receiving corps for sure. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, though. I don't know what he expects from financially from a CFL team, or if there'll be NFL interest in him. Defensively, I think they're set. Hopefully Niles Morgan can get healthy and play, and I think the linebacking core is set pretty well especially if Niles Morgan can come back and get healthy. The D line is pretty good. I think they need a rush end, though. I think they need a guy who can really get after the quarterback from that rush end position. And just like last year, I think there's going to be some change in the defensive backfield. I think that's where they're going to go to and have to do a little bit of work on. There's some guys who are older and are kind of journeyman a little bit and played well at times. And I think Chris Jones has to make the decision whether or not they fit long term, or if they were just part of the Band-Aid solution moving forward. And I think everybody knows that's guys like Ed Gainey and Treston Decoud. I think Scott Hutter had a great year. And will be back, obviously, after signing an extension. I really liked Olamba in his 2 games, as I mentioned earlier. So they kind of got some pieces to the backfield in place. Makanza as well at the Sam linebacker spot. So there's a pretty good group. And we know the quarterbacks, all 3 quarterbacks will be back next year. They're under contract for next year. So that's another bright spot. And I think, and Taylor Cornelius talked about it on Saturday at cleanup day and said it's the first time since his senior year at college he left a team and knows that when he comes back to the team, he's going to be the number 1 guy. And I think that changes how you work out. I think that changes how you think. And I think that gives you an awful lot of confidence going into the offseason and preparing to come back next year. So hopefully he can take the steps, match the steps he took this year and make more steps next year to become an even better quarterback. And I mean, I think he ended up have 19 starts now in his CFL career, maybe 20, but 19. So it's a little over a season. And if you look at his numbers, combine the 2 seasons, pretty decent numbers for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback. And I'll go back and say what we've said many times. I mean, everyone compares rookie quarterbacks to all the other young quarterbacks, and they'll say, Taylor Cornelius wasn't what a Michael Riley was in his first year as a starter, wasn't what a Bo Levi was, or whoever you pick. But Taylor Cornelius never got those 3 years to apprentice. Most of those guys get a year in the practice roster, 2 years as a backup, and then move into the starter's role, either with their team or some other team. He never got that. Instead, he got thrown to the Wolves 2 days ahead of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for his first start. Excuse me. And I think he had some issues that first year. 3 games in 7 days was just unfair to put him into that. And I'm still surprised that Nick Arbuckle didn't get a start in one of those 3 games and play. So you kind of put it all together, and the numbers are pretty decent, and the arrow's up for him. But he's got to take the next step now and become even better next year and take a hold of things. I noticed in the game against Toronto, there was one when I was watching the game over again on TV. He was walking off the field and he was mad. He was mad. You could tell he was cursing a little bit, and he was angry. And he had his helmet up on his head. And I think I thought, oh, that's a good sign. That's showing some emotion. And there's nothing. Ricky Ray wasn't emotional, so there's nothing wrong with being an unemotional quarterback, right? But we kind of got used to Michael Riley and his emotion and stuff over the last 7 or 8 years. But I really like to see that from Taylor, and I'm looking forward to him coming back and knowing it's my team and going to camp and saying it's my team. And I think that's going to be pretty big next year for him.
I would want to take one thing, though. Michael Riley's first season in 2013 as a starter, very similar numbers to Cornelius, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's quite surprising, and the same record.
But he also had 3 years in BC before that, though.
under a professional like Lule as well.
Yeah,
which we
and
haven't
he
had.
was in the quarterback room, and he got a chance to
Yeah.
play a little bit here, a little bit there. He got that start against the Elks in that one game where for his first start in Vancouver. So that's the difference. So you say that, okay, so you take those numbers and say they're very similar, and both got beat up, both had their issues, both won
Yeah.
4-14 teams, right? And then they took the next step. Riley especially took the next step. The next 2 years, he became one of the best quarterbacks in the league at that time. So, I'm not saying Taylor Cornelius is on that same path, but you got to be patient, right? You got to be patient and allow them to learn and allow them to grow. I mean, you got to almost throw out 4 starts in his 3 starts anyway in his season last year. That first start against Winnipeg and the last 2 starts of the season in the last 2 games of that 3 games in 7 days. I mean, I don't think he lasted past the first quarter in the second game, right? Or in the third game, I mean, in Vancouver when the Lions blew out the Elks. So if you throw those out, especially too, and then look at the numbers, that takes a lot of interceptions off the table too. And I know that was kind of the thing that everybody looked at early on and saying, wow, he's got a lot of interceptions. But a lot of those interceptions, I think he had 3 in the first game against Winnipeg, and then he had 6 or 7 in that 3 games in 7 days.
That's 10 interceptions you can take away in 4 games.
Yeah, exactly. You take those off the table, and all of a sudden his stats look way better than than they are if you include them, right? And I know you can't manipulate them. They happened, and he threw them, but there's an asterisk, I think, beside it.
And Riley had a bunch of interceptions in his first year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Again, his numbers are very similar to Cornelius's.
Yeah, Riley wouldn't step out of bounds either when he was running the football.
Nope.
When he should have? Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mike, why don't you go ahead and we'll get Dave on this next one.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So we touched on it a little bit, Morley did, on what he'd like to see improved on the defensive side. But what area of the team do you think is going to need the most attention going into 2023?
Offensive line.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I was, Dave,
Dave,
I don't know.
That's all he's saying. Offensive line, done. And period. End of the conversation.
No doubt about it. And 2 things on that. I don't know if you noticed on Saturday, Dave, when Chris Jones, and he loves to talk about players by their numbers, when he was asked about guys in place, he said 4, 17, and 60. So he obviously likes Garnett and the way he played in the last few games. He had a rocky start to his CFL career. His first couple of games, he got beat a lot, but he obviously got better. They kept him in that spot and didn't make a move. So obviously they saw some improvement. And I thought it was kind of neat that Chris Jones would mention him in the group of young players that he liked that kind of set the table moving forward. And secondly, did you see Tony Washington's Instagram post today?
It looks like he wants to come back.
Yeah,
looks like he wants
to play for. I think because he went out on the injured list, and I know I did an Antler Up with them, and he was talking about this was kind of the farewell tour, and he never got to finish the farewell tour because he spent the last 6 or 8 games, I guess it was. I'm not sure how many on the injured list, and he kind of said, I don't want to quit. I feel like I can do it again. So maybe he's going to come back, and I mean, Tony's pretty cagey. He's pretty good. He's getting up there in age, but I mean, age doesn't seem to affect offensive linemen, especially the good ones and the smart ones, right? Age doesn't bother them. They just play smarter as they get older.
Well, one thing I would worry about Tony though is his knees, because they failed him again this year. But when he played, he was good on a line that wasn't very good. On Friday, I watched, and when I reviewed the game today, I watched 3 players specifically on the O-line. One was Garnett, and I thought, okay, yeah, I'm kind of seeing the same things. I thought he played pretty well. The other was Foucault, because I'm like a position change from left guard to left tackle. He's big. I don't like his feet. I just don't like his feet. He's not strong on his feet. He gets knocked down easy. The other is Jesse Gibbon at left guard. I thought he played pretty well. And he's got to start next year because you trade a quality of a David Beard and you get a second-round pick, and Jesse Gibbon comes with that trade, and he's a former second overall pick. He's got to start, and he's got to make an impact. And I thought he was not too bad. I thought he played pretty well on Friday. But that being said, you better bring in some competition on that O-line, and I think I think every single spot has to be contested for. I'm not giving anyone a free pass on that line. They have to find the right 5, because I don't think that 5 played very well. Whatever it was, they didn't play well enough, in my opinion. It did affect Taylor Cornelius. It affected the other quarterbacks to some degree, but they didn't play well enough, And I'm happy they could run the football. And that's what bothers me, though, is that they ran the football so well that should open up your passing game, and the passing game didn't do enough, in my opinion. They were very explosive. The only play that seemed to be consistent was the 20-plus or 30-plus play. They couldn't stay on the field to save their life half the time. And I understand about Taylor's trajectory, and he's coming into his 3rd season, and Riley had 4 seasons by the time he was a starter in 2013. 2023 is a critical year for quarterbacking and for Taylor Cornelius. We need to see steps, because here's 2 things I don't like. I don't like his completion percentage, and you can say it doesn't matter. In this game, it does, because completion percentage helps you stay on the field.
Yep.
His decision-making needs to be better. He needs to forget the fact he's got this big arm, because damn it, he can throw it down the field. There's no question about it. His decision-making, other than that, is very spotty. He doesn't know when to release the pocket. He doesn't know when he should stay in the pocket. He can't hit a check down consistently enough. I like his battle, and I like the things that he brings to the table as far as being able to move the ball. He's not consistent enough for my liking. He needs to take a step, or else this organization has a question to ask themselves at this time, next season. Can Trey Ford take a step? Just because it's Taylor's job doesn't mean it's going to be his job, but I think it will be his job. That's what I think. The secondary has to improve. And again, other than Scott Hutter, I want competition everywhere. I think Olumba could be someone that they could bring in and start, no question. Gainey, I don't know what to think about him, because was he victimized by the inexperience around him, or is he starting to lose a bit of a step? I don't know. Decoud's interesting. I love Tristan Decoud, but he can be steady and he can be all over the place. He's like that balloon that you blow up and then you let it go and it just goes all over the place. That's Tristan Decoud to me. But there's a lot to like about him. And don't forget, AG is going to come back next year, I'm sure. Aaron Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
How much?
And good night, Dave.
Well,
Morley.
Dave, thanks for joining us. Yeah, that's great. Disappeared completely. That was interesting. All right. He's right, though. Aaron Grimes will be back. So that's a good thing. We did get that much. That was a good thing. All right. Well, now I know Dave's gone, but Commissioner, we might as well talk about the next question, and then we can carry on. And hopefully Dave will join us back.
Yeah. So do we have any inclinations on who's going to be up for a free agent? Or are there any free agents that do you think CJ is going to be looking at?
You're talking on the Elks?
Yeah.
On their own free agents?
Yeah.
Almost everybody, right? The whole league, like 75 to 80% of the league is on 1-year contracts, aren't they? What we do know is that the quarterbacks are all signed for next year. Cornelius and Ford have 2 more years left on their deals, and 1 more year left for Kai Loxley. We know that, and there's been, they've signed a couple of guys. Gibbons signed an extension. Scott Hutter signed an extension. Someone else whose name escapes me right now also signed an extension at some point this year as well. So, he's starting to chip away at it, but Kenny Lawler's the biggest name I think that's out there as far as free agency goes for the Elks. Most guys, are on a 1-year contract. So a lot of guys are up this year. I said earlier, I talked to guys both on and off the record, and I overwhelmingly got the fact that they want to come back. They want to be part of what's going on here. They're very pleased with what's going on here. So, no one's happy with the way the season went, but they can see things are turning around, especially the guys who have been here for the 2 years and have seen, what's happened from the start of last year to the end of this year. I think that they're pretty anxious to be a part of it and see it through. So, the list will come out after the Grey Cup for sure. But I think it's pretty safe to assume that most of the team are free agents because that's just how the CFL operates right now, right? 1-year contracts for a bunch of guys. But to me, Serezna is one of the key guys on defense that has, and as I mentioned earlier, he might get some NFL looks. So we'll see. I heard that he's thinking about moving to Edmonton for the off season. So that shows you the commitment he has. And I imagine he'd probably wait till maybe after the holidays and everything and see if he gets any kind of NFL interest or not. But that's on the table. So that could be pretty good news. For the Elks. If he's thinking about that, then obviously he wants to be back and he wants to play here.
Well, that's awesome.
All right, we got Dave back. Dave, the question we were talking about is free agents, both the Elks and ones that on the Elks, but also free agents that they might target and what you might think of across the league.
I'm going to blame Joe Balaneski for that problem. That's probably his fault.
Joe ruins a turf district.
Joe ruins the turf district. There you go.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know how I feel about talking about free agency now.
I know. That's why I like asking the question. Watch you squirm a little.
Well, I mean, I'll just go back to what I said. I mean, they have to identify the O-line. They have to identify the D-line. They have to identify the secondary. I think they probably could use maybe another receiver. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens when that list comes out. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when we can, at some point the league's going to release after the season who's under contract. So that'll give us an indication of who's going to be back. But yeah, I mean, everyone's free agent list is long right now. I think if Chris Jones can sign more extensions, like more multi-year extensions, and I don't know how how much guaranteed money will be involved in this deal. Because remember, if you sign at least a 2-year deal, you can guarantee 50% of your final year, which is what Taylor Cornelius did. So that'll be interesting too. But there's no question that he'll, I think Chris Jones will be active in free agency. He said, he keeps repeating he won't be as active. And I think I think what I'm going to be interested to find out is he's talked a lot about the USFL and the XFL and how you cannot scout Division I NCAA as much as you used to and go to the big schools. He needs to find diamonds in the rough in NCAA Div 2, and Div 3. He says 1AA, NAIA, and he's got this software where basically you can identify a player. He's got someone on his staff that just basically scours this site that can identify a player and where he is, and you can specifically go to that area instead of I'm going to have a workout and somewhere in Oklahoma, and hopefully, we get 40 players show up and we'll see what happens. He can actually go and find the player in the specific location and scout him. That's pretty impressive.
And I'll tell you one thing about how serious Chris Jones is about scouting this year. He's leaving town midweek this week, and I'll bet he'll be watching 3 or 4 football games this weekend somewhere in the U.S. And they might not be Division I games, probably won't be, but there'll be those Div 2 games that Dave was talking about, Div 3 maybe as well, finding guys, and I mean, you think about it, there's a lot of guys that have come out of those leagues that are pretty good players. And, the first guy that comes to my mind is Brandon Zylstra, who came from a Division II school and is in the NFL now. So, it's going to be a lot of work. And I think the Elks will be able to add to their lineup in the football ops this year as well, because I believe they're going to get some money off the football ops cap, because this year they were paying Brock Sunderland, they were paying Jamie Elizondo, and they're paying Noel Thorpe. And I think that some of that, if not all of that money, will be freed up next year, so they can add that back into the budget and hire some scouts to look around and some bird dogs to be out shaking the trees a little bit. But how about this for free agency next year? They need a special teams coordinator, and they need a good one, because it's, they've had 4 of them in the last 2 seasons, right? If you, I think 5 maybe if you include Mike Shepard. That's an issue they got to have. And I don't wish ill on anyone, but
Say it. Say it.
Come on, we're thinking it.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Which way is east? Which way is east?
Yeah, just over next door, right? There may be some changes in Saskatchewan, and I don't know. Craig Dickinson is a really good offensive coordinator. I don't wish him any ill, but if he's on the market, he and Chris Jones obviously have a relationship, and he's been a part of his teams. And I love when Chris Jones talks about him as a coach. He always says we. He always says we. It's like when we did this and when we did that, and we're trying to do this, and that's his group of guys. And he's got a core group of guys that includes Stephen McAdoo and some of the other guys who have been with him. And they were here, they were in Saskatchewan, they were with him in Toronto last year a little bit. He joined them actually in Toronto a little bit, and he brought a lot of them here. And Craig Dickinson's one of those guys. And if he's available, I wouldn't be surprised if he's here. But that's and again, I wish no ill will to anyone, but that possibility is definitely out there.
Well, I mean, think about it. The last time we had a return touchdown in a game, who was the special teams coordinator?
Craig Dickinson.
Right.
It's a long time ago too, right?
2015.
2015 for punts and 2014 for kickoffs, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, did you happen to see a couple of good fan questions in there that we can throw to the gentleman before we do our quick predictions and go from there?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, as people were, Chris Agar was asking, did anyone see the Christian Salisbury farewell to Edmonton? Pure class for sure. Again, we had him on the show. I thought he was outstanding, and yeah, it just seemed to be a salute as he goes back home and avoids the next 5 months of winter.
And that's maybe part of the character that Chris Jones has talked about a lot this year. Through the wins and through the losses, he's always talked about the character that he has in the dressing room, and I think that shows you that there is a lot of that for a guy to do something like that, And I mean, he was only here for he was here early and got cut, and only back for the last couple of months. But obviously, the city and the team made an impact on him, so that's pretty cool.
Coach Vic, go ahead.
We lose Dave again.
Yeah.
Did
No,
we
he's there.
lose Dave again?
He's there.
Oh, okay.
back.
I don't-
Nope.
I don't see him.
I do. Weird.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, weird. I don't hear him or see him, so that's all right then. Well, that's fun. Dave, we're not ignoring you. Just
he's gone now.
Now he's
There he
gone.
goes.
Fun.
He took that
There we
personally,
go.
I think.
Yep.
That's right.
Well, then this one's from Morley. Coach Vic wants to know, do you have any relief that now that the season's over?
A little bit. I especially the first maybe week or so, but I start to miss it really fast. I mean, it's tiring. I'm not gonna complain because I love my job, but it's long days during the season, and
Sure.
I because I'm up early to do sports on the morning show and then off to practice and everything. So it's nice to get some rest time and turn a few of the 10-hour days into 6 or 8 hour days. But I'll miss it. I think I'm off next week, and probably when I come back after that in early November, I'll be starting to count down, especially once the playoffs start. You start watching them, and you really wish you were involved in those playoff games and everything. So yeah, I would say there is a bit of sense of relief, especially when you get eliminated early. And I mean, the Elks got eliminated with 2 games left, mathematically eliminated, but for the last 5 or 6 games, you knew it was going to be a tough slug, right, to get to the playoffs. So it was difficult. The last couple of games are difficult because you still got a job to do, just like the players, and you still got to make the broadcast entertaining. You still got to do your job and give everything you have to the fans and to the sponsors of the broadcast and everything. But yeah, I'll say I'm a bit relieved because of the way the season, especially the last 2 seasons, the way they've gone. It's kind of nice to have it over with, but like I said, I'll be looking forward to next year in 2 weeks' time. I'll be getting excited, start counting the days till training camp.
What about you, Dave? Any sort of relief?
I can tell you, as a podcaster, having to do this every week, there's definitely a sense of relief. Okay, I think Dave's popping back in there. Okay, Dave, we can hear you.
Yeah.
You know what? I got to really work on
It's
that.
all good. Sorry about my Wi-Fi issues. I believe I understand the crux of the a question here, the way Morley was speaking. Do I miss it? Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I think you miss the routine. You miss the going to the stadium. You miss the hanging out with Morley and planning and
You're
all
only
that.
human,
And you
Dave.
miss talking to players and coaches. And then, I do miss, even though I'm up late a lot when Morley's sleeping, I'm working after he goes to sleep. Is doing lots of game prep, and then leading to game day, travel. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of airplanes. Not that I'm afraid of flying. I just don't like it, because it's not all that comfortable anymore. But I miss the routine of it, and I miss the feeling you get when you're preparing, and when you get to game day, and it's like, okay, that's the easy part. But yeah, I mean, I try and really enjoy my off season, because it's time to just decompress. It's time to, unlike Chris Jones, I understand decompression very well. But when it's snowing and blowing outside, like, I don't miss football at all. Like, I just don't, like, it's just, I'm good to, just let it ride. But then free agency hits, and then you're like, wow, man, like, let's go. And then combine hits, and then draft hits, and then, you're full go. So I really enjoy my off season. Really enjoy the family time, the extra time you get, back to 8-hour days instead of 12 or 14 or whatever it is, and just really enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, I do miss the routine of it, and just the fun of it, for sure, because after a while it does get kind of like, okay, sometimes it gets a little monotonous, your day, right? So it's just nice. It's just nice like I say, it's nice to have the off season. And like Morley said, I think relief is a good word right now, just because it was tough, and look forward to better days.
Absolutely.
You can't miss it if you don't go away, right?
Yep,
Ooh.
exactly.
That's very
Just
true.
a couple more here. So this is Scout from the Elks herd, who was, those at the game will maybe have noticed he was up on the big screen there with Catherine, talking about being season seat holders. Is talking about James Welder Jr. is probably the only standalone player last year that returned this year, and that's it. And then birthday boy Ken Ludwig says, do we see the Elks bringing back Wilder Jr.?
I think there's an issue with his neck. I don't know if the neck will allow him to play. Let's just say that, which is unfortunate for James, because we saw the year he had last year, and he came in and was excited about this year, and unfortunately he played with that neck injury for, I think, a couple of games, and that's tough, right? So I would say that's probably a long shot at this stage, but stranger things or miraculous things have happened, of course, but I would say probably not.
And I think we should add, lucky to have him in town too, because he was such an active guy in the community. He was,
Absolutely.
he got hurt, and I think he knew he was done for the season early on, and could have gone home right then and there, right? But stayed and put his kids in school here, and did all sorts of activities in the community. You always, after every home game, you saw people posting pictures on social media that with James Wilder, and I think it was just terrific. The other thing to keep in mind on too is he's got a pretty good business back home in Florida with his dad at their Wilder Sports Camp, or whatever they call it, and they run a fitness center, and they're pretty busy there. So there comes a point, and sadly, the way CFL paychecks go, there comes a point where players often, it's better for them financially and better for their future if they move on from football. And that might be the case for James Wilder, who's already retired once a couple of years ago, and then got talked into coming back. So, good player, good person. Really enjoyed the talks I had with him over the last couple of years. And if he doesn't come back, it'll be tough not to have him around, because he's such a great guy. He's a fun-loving guy, always smiling, always having fun. So I wish him well. But, honestly, Kevin Brown, I don't know how you keep, if James Wilder is on the field, Kevin Brown's not. And I don't know if you want to keep Kevin Brown off the field next year.
Yeah, well, the other part of that is the five of us are all like, yeah, we're going to miss James Wilder because he's an excellent interview. But that's
Yep,
but
that's for sure.
that is how.
So
that
Dave and I
goes.
always judge free agent signings and trades and stuff. How good an interview are they? Oh, sure, he's a good football player, but can he fill 3 minutes on the pregame show?
That's right. Exactly. It's important to have that. It's important to have that. Did you have one more there, Mike?
Sure.
Or are you good?
Yeah,
for that?
let's go
Okay.
with another Coach Vic. This is for Dave and Morley. How tough was it keeping up with all the player changes? You talked about over 100 players on the field, and some guys would be signed and then cut like the week later. How hard was it, especially on game day, keeping up with those?
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at the depth chart and you're like, wow, 11 changes. Okay. I think we understand this how Chris Jones operates. I mean, if he doesn't like what he sees, he's going to make changes. And I was just hoping at some point, he's just got to settle down. And he did say to us on a couple of occasions, I don't want to make changes, but one, I don't like what I see on the field, and two, we're injured, so I got to make some changes. But I was pretty happy around Labor Day when that carousel kind of stopped. But yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: when you're covering a Chris Jones coach team, you know that this is going to happen, and some of it can be a blur. And I mean, I don't put every name out there because not every name needs to be out there, right? Because they kind of have to prove themselves. But for example, we talk about Kevin Brown. You look at his history at the Incarnate Word, and you're like 10.5 yard average. Holy crap! I'm gonna put that out there. That's amazing, right? So it was hard in that way because I try and do a little bit of research exercise on each player. After a while, it's just like I'm already 25 minutes into this, and that's weird. I'm looking up the fifth player of the six that have been signed. So
and three of them will get released in 2 days.
Exactly.
Like that's what I found.
That's right.
That's what I found. It was like I think Jones and the coaching staff wanted to bring guys in to look at them in practice, and they signed them to the practice roster. And there's so many guys this year who get they go back to practice on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, we get the email that they've signed all these guys, and Thursday or Friday, we get an email that they've released, some of those guys, or guys who'd come in and play one game. I remember Ben Holmes, a quarterback, came in, had a great conversation with him, and and then he didn't play. He dressed, didn't play in the game, and then Monday morning he got released. It's just how it goes, right? And they obviously needed a guy to come in, and I think they had some injury issues at quarterback at that time, and they needed a guy to come in, and they brought him in. They looked at him in practice, dressed him in a game, and said, "No, he's not what we're looking for, I don't think." And they released him and went on. There's a lot of guys like that. So it was just I do my we get the depth charts and everything, but I do my lineup cards every game. And I did a lot of typing this year. I did a lot of typing on those cards this year.
You even had guys coming back,
I
too,
wish-
right? I mean, you had Ethan McConzo on the roster, off the roster, on the roster, off the roster.
Yeah, I think Ethan McConzo and Mike Beaudry were the guys who were off and on. So Beaudry more in the first half of the season, and then McConzo kind of in the middle towards the end when he was brought back, released, brought back and released, brought back and released. It must have been tough for his brother.
Right.
I would think, right? Because he's hugging him hello and then hugging him goodbye and then hugging him hello and then hugging him goodbye again.
Third time around, you don't get a hug.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had thought about that early in the season and made that T-shirt that said "Welcome to the Elks. Thanks for being here." Like it was pretty much
Welcome to the
what
Elks.
it
We
was
wish you the
like
best
for
in your
first
future
few
endeavors.
weeks.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it turned out to be 104 guys
Fantastic.
who were on the injured list or the actual roster, and then throw in the guys who were just on the practice roster and never hit the injured list or hit the game day roster. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, Dave, would you say 120, 130 guys maybe that came through? And that doesn't even include all the guys who were here for training camp and left, right? So yeah, it was
like
a
we're
lot
talking
of
like
names.
160, maybe 170.
There was a time, couple of
Crazy.
times, and I remember going to Dave. I would say a name and go, "Is he still here?" And trying to remember, yeah, he's on the practice roster. Okay. Or is he on the injury? No, he's gone. He was released. And there was a couple of times where you just couldn't keep track of guys. You just didn't know were they on the injured list, were they on the practice roster, or were they one of the guys released, because there's just so many of them all season long.
And this happened last week, preparing for the final game. So every week we were doing this game. Is he here? Where's the roster? Like, it's crazy.
He's still here.
There were
What's
190
going on?
people under contract in 2022.
190.
Wow.
190
Wow.
players.
So I was
just
way
ridiculous.
under.
Holy man.
Wow.
Yeah. Take the
Man.
over on that one.
Man, that's a lot. And then throw in the training camp guys, right?
Yeah, it's including training camp. Those
So
are
including
190
guys who came to camp? Okay.
that
All right.
were under
So,
contract at some point.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a lot of players.
Jeez.
Now I
It's
need
like
the
even
off
triple
season.
digits. Yeah.
I'd like to know, although they had some injury issues this year, I'd like to know what Winnipeg's numbers were.
Yeah.
Probably not even 100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But
Very
they
true.
didn't go 4-14 last year,
Right.
or 3-11 last year.
Mhm.
Also. All right, let's get into our last little bit here. I want to talk about playoff predictions because we're this is our final show of this year. We know what all the playoff games are now, so let's start with the semifinals. Hamilton and Montreal, and then Calgary going to BC. So, Dave, who do you have in
Boy,
those two games?
you know, there's a lot to like about Montreal, and there's a lot that they make you want to just pound your fist on the table and go, what is going on here? Right? Their offense is so, but sometimes you just don't get what you should get out of them.
Mhm.
Their defense, I think, is playing its best, as good as any defense in this league. There is a bit of a lightning in a bottle, factor too, and Hamilton is definitely catching that. But at the same time, I just I can't go against the Alouettes. I just think that they have enough, and I trust Trevor Harris more than I trust Dane Evans, and obviously there's an injury issue with Dane, and we'll see if he can actually play in that game, and he probably won't play this weekend. West semi, boy, depends how good Nathan Rourke is, and depends if he's going to play, and I think that really factors into it. But that's a tough one. You know, that is a real tough one. I think if Nathan plays and is close to where he was at before he got hurt, as far as the level he was at, then they should win. If he's not, or they have to play with Vernon Adams, who I think has done a good job of treading water and keeping them above water. I think that could still give them a chance. I don't know. I think the second best team in the league is Calgary, and I think they'll find a way to get through and go to Winnipeg.
Interesting.
I
All
agree
right.
with that. I really like the way Calgary's played in the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. They've been pretty good. They've been pretty consistent. I think they're getting pretty healthy right now too, and I think they'll go into BC and win. Even if Rourke does play, there's obviously a rust issue, and he obviously won't be 100%. He won't be able to run like he has run, especially against the Elks this year. BC's building though, and I think they're going to be a good team. I think a lot of what happens in that game depends on Rourke, but I think Calgary's going to win that one and move on to Winnipeg. In the East, I'm with Dave. Montreal's just got too many game breakers, especially offensively. And if Trevor Harris is on his game, he can go 90%. And I mean, Gino Lewis and Weineke, and they got a lot of good players on that team. And I think Hamilton's they're coming on. They've had some crazy wins down the stretch, but I don't think they're deep enough. And especially we'll see how Evans is moving forward. But I think Montreal will win that one in the East. So that's my call.
All right. Super fan?
I think I certainly agree with the Montreal Hamilton. Dane Evans has been very up and down. When he's good, he can be fairly good, but I think that when Trevor Harris is on, that's a much stronger offense. We're starting to see with Stanback back and Walter Fletcher both getting used. Fletcher was great out of the backfield, catching those balls and even running some of those balls. I thought he had a great game in the last game. So I think Montreal is going to take that one. I'm going to go against the other gents and go with BC in the West. Rourke does have another game prior to the West semifinal, where they figure he'll be playing some in the last game of the regular season. I think that he does just bring something, even being on the sidelines is just going to elevate this team. And I think they also have some really strong weapons. I'm hearing that Brian Burnham will also be back for the West semifinal. Even if he's not 100%, that's just another strong weapon they've got. And we haven't heard a lot from Dominic Rhymes in the last little bit, but he and Rourke had a special connection, I thought. So with those kind of weapons, I think we're going to see BC take it.
All right.
Yeah, and just
Kayla?
going off of BC too, I mean, like you saw what Butler can do. I mean, he absolutely destroyed our secondary and just like ran us into the ground. So to have that, and I mean, I can't go against VA. That's just abnormal, and there's no way in heck that I would ever go with Calgary at this point. So I think the momentum is gonna change into the Lions' favor. I'm just done and over with Calgary, so I'm going more with my heart on this one. I just think that the Lions have a really good core group of guys, and we need some change. And I think the Lions are gonna head to Winnipeg. And I mean, I think it's probably gonna be a sweep when it comes to the Owls and the Ticats. Can't speak for Andrew, but I'm just guessing. But yeah, you got that magic in Gino, and you've got that duo in Fletcher and Stanback, and then you got that D line. Like, I can't go against Mondo and Mike Moore. Like, just a solid defense. So yeah, I mean, that loss against the Argos, I'd like to point out that my pick'ems were actually right.
yeah.
Strange enough.
I finally had a 4-0 week
Right?
last week. It's crazy. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Owls, and I'm gonna go with the Lions.
All right. Well, if Dane Evans was healthy, I would be totally going Ticats and Lions, but I'm going to go Alouettes and Lions, and you guys have all explained why, so I probably don't need to say that again. Okay, so into the finals. Now we've got Montreal traveling to Toronto, and we've got either Calgary and or BC, whoever you picked, going into Winnipeg. Morley, we'll start with you this time.
Winnipeg in the West. I don't,
Okay.
I've said it before. I'm a Ric Flair guy. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And as long as they keep winning, I can't go against them. They're well coached. They got experience. They've got the MOP. They've got so many really good players, both sides of the football. So I can't see them losing right now. So that's my pick. And spoiler alert, they'd be my pick for the Grey Cup as well, moving forward. In the East, that's a Montreal-Toronto game. I mean, we saw last week how close they could be and how good they are. That game, to me, would come down to Trevor Harris versus McLeod Bethel Thompson, who's going to be the hot guy. Yeah. And quite honestly, I wouldn't know who to pick, because either one of them, can get hot. Either one of them can get cold. It's, to me, that's going to be a very, very hard game to pick. I think at the end of the day, I might go with Montreal, just because in my mind, they have more game breakers, especially on offense. So I don't know. It'd be a great game, though. That might be one of the best games in the playoffs, seeing those two teams. And we saw a pretty good game from them last week, and look forward to that one in the East final if Montreal gets there.
Yeah, for sure. Dave?
Yeah, West, Winnipeg. I mean, they're just that good. They are the best, and yes, I do believe we'll see a three-peat. And in the East, yeah, this has the makings of another low event game, another defensive battle, and I will always take the team with the more weapons, and the more weapons exist on the Alouette side than they do on the Argo side. I just think that can tip the scales. Special teams, I think the Alouettes have the edge, clearly, and defensively they're fairly even, but that's a key loss with Shane Ray up front for the Argos and Wynton McManus in the linebacking core. They are a ball hawking secondary. You got to be really careful if you're a quarterback against the Argos. But when it comes to a low event game, which I expect it will be, I will go with the team with the game breakers, and because you only need one score, right? You only need one score to make the difference. I think the Alouettes have the difference makers.
All right, Kayla.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of just said it all. Exactly my thoughts. I'd like to see the Lions, but I think that Winnipeg is just too strong and too dynamic and too stable in most regards. And the same with the Alouettes. Like Morley said it best. Like it's going to come down to a grind and who's hot, because we can see the Argos too. They flip. They have these brilliant games and then they have these like, what are you doing games? And it all comes, like Morley said, all comes down to who's hot. And I just got to give it slightly to the Owls. I think they're gonna take this loss to heart, the one that they just had against the Argos, and I think that they're gonna pull it through.
All right, super fan.
I'm gonna go completely off type on this.
Ooh.
I think that Winnipeg definitely is a strong team in the West, but I think if there's going to be any team that can beat them, it will be BC if Rourke is playing. If Rourke is not playing, I think it's Winnipeg all the way there. If BC has Rourke and he is at least 70-80% of what he was before, I think it could be a close game. It's going to be a less than one score game, and I think BC can take it. In the East, on the other hand, I thought that Trevor Harris would have a strong game against Hamilton. We've seen Harris have strong games followed by weak games. The 2019 season sort of comes to mind when we had a dominant game against Montreal and then lost in the final. I think it's going to be the same kind of thing. You'll have a strong game in the semifinal, maybe not as strong. It was a very close game in Montreal. I think in Toronto, after with a week's rest, Toronto's going to have the edge in that. And if we see good Trevor, bad Trevor, and it's bad Trevor in these final, I think that Toronto is going to take it.
All right, interesting. That was exactly what I was going to say. It's like you and I think alike, super fan. That's
Hey,
where I
we're
was
in
headed as well. So we know Dave and Morley are picking Winnipeg to take it all and three-peat. Kayla, your matchup in the final is Montreal and Winnipeg, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
She's realized what she's done.
Title of the podcast. Yeah.
Kayla wants to wait till the paint dries in that corner she's in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, again, like it's a battle of the head versus the heart, and I just honestly, it's so cool to see a dynasty, and it would really be something to see a three-peat from a team that I don't hate. So that would be nice. But I'm gonna go with my heart, and I'm gonna say the Alouettes.
Wow.
I can't bet against them, and my heart's always wrong. So there you go. I'm just giving it to you guys. But
Congratulations, Bombers, on the
there's
three-peat.
just like this. What?
Oh,
Congratulations,
totally missed
Bombers, on
that.
the streak. Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah, yeah, right.
I
You're
was
welcome.
congratulating the Bombers on the three-peat thanks to
Yeah.
your to your heart being wrong, even though your heart's always in the right place. There you
In
go.
the right place, just wrong decisions, which ironically does not always. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I just have this like maybe I always think the best, even when going into the Elks game. I'm like, I have a good feeling about this, and we always blow it. So it's just the optimism that's really winning out. That's probably going to be a complete failure, but I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick with the Owls.
Good to stick with your guns. All right, Mike, go
They're
ahead and
weak.
say exactly what I was going to say, because we both have a Toronto BC Grey Cup. What do you got?
yeah. And again, if I think that Rourke is just going to get stronger, assuming that there, touch wood, is no injuries, I think we have the Grey Cup champion BC Lions with the MOP Nathan Rourke And with that, that will be the end of his time in the Canadian Football League, and he will be down south in 2023.
Ooh, man. Okay, I was gonna say everything up until that last line. Then I don't like that last line. I mean,
I don't like it.
him being on the
but-
other team, but whatever. So, yeah, I'm gonna go for a BC Grey Cup. We'll see how that goes. I mean, whatever. I've always sucked at pick 'em, so I'm throwing out whatever I care, whatever. This is what I hope, and we'll see how it goes. Well, gents, thank you so much for joining us, taking some time out of your evening. I know you both have early mornings, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat football with us. And we love listening and talking to you. So thank you so much for joining us. Where does everybody find you guys on the social media so that they can follow you? We'll start with you, Morley.
On the Tweety box, Morley_Scott, same thing on Instagram. But if you go to Instagram, you'll mostly just see pictures of my grandson. So if you're interested in that, go ahead. And I want to just do a shout out for the Elks this week, the show we do every week. It's usually on Monday nights during the season. We're moving it. We're going to have a show all off season long this year, and first show will be Saturday morning. It'll move to Saturdays at 9:30. So Saturdays, and we'll of course have that up on the podcast as well. So Saturday mornings for the Elks this week, and first show this week is going to be a little look back to Garbage Bag Day, and myself and Dave and Blake Dermott will toss it around for a while as well. So that'll be all off season long, Saturday mornings at 9:30 on Ched. So
love it.
See you all there.
Fantastic.
Tuning in.
Very excited about that. Absolutely. Mr. Campbell?
You can find me on Twitter, Dave_Ched, on Instagram, Dave_Campbell630, which my Instagram is kind of boring. Sorry. I think I will try and make it better. Someone has to teach me. Yes, Morley, someone has to teach me to do something technological as well. So I am human as well, even though I'm back in the office next week, or you're not in the office next week. So the week after, I'll become your full-time IT person.
Nice.
/ the person who's annoyed by you, which happens a lot, but it goes the other way too. And I just want to say thank you very much to just the support and the kindness that Morley and I get, and the broadcast team gets with Brendan Escott, with Blake, and with David Bowles, who joined us as our sideline guy and needs to learn how to come with the right jacket. So if you can give him some jacket advice, preferably wear a warm one, David, please, when it's cold. But we got I don't do this a lot because I just kind of just move on and just kind of don't look back kind of thing. But I think this year just kind of hit me a little bit more. Just it was another tough season, and there's a lot of people who are trying to make noise and trying to create turmoil, and I do appreciate the people who do support us and do just are there with us, and we're not everyone's cup of tea, and we're not going to say what we don't expect everyone to agree with us, but that's not what it's about. And I think it's just been really heartwarming to see the nice messages and the just the kindness from people about the work that we do. So it's nice. Thank you, especially the three here. Thank you.
I was gonna say, boy, the Ched tea is my cup of tea. That's for sure. Ever so much that I moved closer to the box.
That's
Nice. That's right.
Yes,
That's right. We appreciate
and
the
we
waves.
always love we love the waves and the hellos, and it was just nice to get more hugs from everyone this year, including the three of you.
And
So
I got to give
I
I think we should give a shout out. Everyone talks about the attendance a lot, and it is down. But instead of talking about who's not there, let's thank and give good wishes to everybody who was there.
Yep.
The guys the fans who've stuck with the team,
Yep.
who've showed up through what has been an awful stretch at home, especially. Congratulations to you guys. True fans. It doesn't matter what the name of the team is. It doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. There's been a pretty good group of core fans who've showed up every game, and I think, stay strong. I think things are getting better, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about some home wins next year and more than 4 wins as well moving forward.
I 100% agree with you, Morley. That those of us that will look back one day and go, we came when they sucked, And
Mhm.
we were always here, and now we get to cheer louder because now they're good. So that's exciting. Commissioner, where does everybody find you online?
On Twitter at Duchess Lombardi.
Perfect. And Superfan?
You can find me at 56 Parkies, and then the history segment and more guys like this you can see at the Edmonton Football History account at EDMHISTOREE.
Awesome. And of course, you can find me at Free Policious. And we'll make a quick shout out here to Dave to say hi to you from Leanne.
Hello, Leanne.
There we are. And also send our congratulations out to Leanne on her upcoming nuptials. We're excited to be part of that. And we won't have another show before it. So congrats early. It's going to be amazing. Thank you again to the APN for all of their support this year. You can check out all of the great shows at albertapodcastnetwork.com. You're welcome. Okay. And of course, follow our friends with Pay It Forward with Football as they continue to spread kindness, and check out our friend Celeste's blog, vinyljourney.com, which has a new album every week, and we love it. That was fantastic. And of course, join the huddle at the Turf District, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We of course are taking a bit of a hiatus now, but we will still try and be active on Twitter and some of our socials. But you know, we need a break too. We love you guys, but we need a break. But we'll still be around. And if you're on YouTube Live, stick around for overtime. We will get to some of these other questions and chat a little bit more to get ready for the end of season 8, and of course being prepared for season 9, which we will be back sometime in the new year. You know, or when something massive happens and we all need to chat about it. So for Dave and Morley and Commissioner K and Superfan, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you next week.
Don't go anywhere. It's overtime.
And we are back for overtime. We catch Kayla mid
Oh,
yawn as we come back. That's fantastic.
Perfect.
As it should be. You know what? I understand it is our last show for a while, but I don't know how long we're going to be able to do overtime because all of us are like, holy jeepers. That's a lot. Why do we do this on Mondays? What were we thinking? Oh my God.
Getting into the swing of overtime, Tim Capper says, one more show. One more show. This isn't the season finale. Get Victor on next week to close out the broadcast season.
You know what, Tim? I love you dearly, man, but we need a break, and I'm not doing that on Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Well, he didn't say that to be next week. He just said one more show.
Could you imagine we're doing it on Halloween and my dog is like losing his mind the entire night while everyone knocks on the door? Nah, we love Wilson, but let's not get carried away. So we will we will make some other shows, especially if something big happens, then we'll make sure, and it likely more of a free form, so to speak, but other than that, we will be back to hang out with you guys all soon. We just need a little bit of downtime.
Plus, Kayla can be on their show after Montreal wins because she's the one that believed this whole time.
Predicted it. Yeah, exactly. Look, look, this is what my downtime is. I'll show you guys. Look at this. Check this out.
Oh.
Jeez Louise.
So glad I didn't do that with one of my bobbleheads. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, that sucked. All right. Well, this is exciting for a minute. All right. See?
So it transforms into a pile of Lego. Cool.
That's neat.
Wow.
I love Lego.
Oh.
Something dropped. What the hell dropped? Oh, I know what it is. Okay. Anyway, that's my
His lower body, like.
No. I grabbed it in the wrong spot. There. See? There he is.
That's what she said.
Well, if you had a nickel, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Another one of those t-shirts. Anyway.
Yeah. Leanne's gonna be busy.
I know she's got lots of shirts.
Off-season.
There'll be lots of shirts happening. Anyway, Optimus is so damn cool. Like that was a really good, that was a very fun build. I need more time to build more things. My next one is the Vincent Van Gogh Starry Night one. That's like a 3D.
Oh, very cool.
Of Starry Night, which I'm pretty excited about that. So little bit of a break there. Optimus Prime is your rear. Coach, he's fine. He's off. Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was fitting for the season. Got that right. I was just trying to be just like our team.
Yeah.
Look how pretty it is, Crash. Shit.
That never happened.
Yeah. Oh my. Now the question will be, do I release this show with overtime and just make it like a 3-hour extravaganza, or do I just cut?
Split her up to 2 episodes. There we go.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. See how it goes. All right. So Tim, we'll do our best, and we'll keep everybody informed as we get back into it, probably in the new year there.
So Clippy D, of course, says he's just here so he doesn't get fined. So that's important.
That's good of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the letter like already, so you're lucky.
So lucky.
So
there's no fines. Just trying to go through some of the questions. Some questions, of course, obviously for Dave and Morley, but Morley has to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Which, unless everyone else is willing to get up at that time, probably not a lot of fun. Yeah. Everyone's favorite Penguin says at least this BC Elks game this year was better than the call to last year's BC Elks season-ending game.
That's fair. Yeah.
Which was sort of Nathan Rourke's breakout game, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the season. He does seem to have our number.
Yep.
He sure does. Yeah, he sure does.
I haven't added up the 3 games he played against us, but I don't want to. So
we don't have to.
But my therapist says that's not the right thing to do. Yeah.
Nope.
Yep.
Chris Agar says, definitely a weird feeling. A bye in the final week of the season isn't, in my opinion, fun. Interestingly, I had checked this out earlier. This is the earliest an Edmonton season has ended.
Oh, is that
Period.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
certainly since we rejoined the league in 1949. So the closest before that was 2006. We ended October 27th. And so this
Oh,
was a
wow.
full 6 days, almost a full week earlier.
Because I
That's-
always remember a Halloween game. Those were always so fun.
Yeah, around there for sure. Our
Yeah.
1000th game, I think, was on a Halloween on October 31st versus Montreal.
Or
Mm.
just like make it, if it was around Halloween, like a lot of people would dress up, and even
Yeah.
like the cheerleaders and stuff would always get involved in. Those were always so much fun.
And Punter would dress as Darth Vader, and it was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, those are a ton of
The
fun.
Mr. Potato Head version of Darth Vader was fantastic. People keep asking, why do we have a giant baked potato as a mascot? But let me tell you.
That's actually what my friend said. She's like, I thought that was a potato.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
You're like, you know what? I like potatoes.
Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with a
What's
potato.
wrong with that? Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
if we were the fighting Irish, I'd be all over it. I'm just saying.
I cheer for potatoes every year at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Come on, bring on the potatoes. Like, what's the difference? Now I just
Gravy.
chips.
Yep, exactly. Chris Agar is asking, I've had several discussions with Fairweather fans, and many of them think that Chris Jones will jump ship. Does anyone on the panel or in the chat not think CJ is here for the duration of his 4-year contract?
Well, he's definitely here next year.
Well,
we said that in 2015.
well, none of that, but Saskatchewan said it in he finished 2018, and then January 2019, he left for the NFL.
Right.
I think there was a clause in his contract where he can't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that's enforceable. But I don't think he goes anywhere in the CFL, because what more can he get that he doesn't already have here? He's got all the titles. He's got pretty much full control plus everything in place. I think starting over again would kind of suck for him, because it was a lot of work to rebuild the team from the ground up. So I think that, he's here for at least another probably 2 years at this point. I don't know if the CFL or the NFL is going to come calling. The only thing I could see is if a decent Div 2 and up college team maybe had an opening, but there are so many coaches out there right now that are looking for work that have certainly more NFL or American college experience that I think will probably get a call first. So we'll see.
And you know what? As much as I know that we all said that before he got hired, and I know that was the part that we were upset about, I will give him credit throughout this season in the couple of interactions that I've had with him, and in watching the post games and all, and the end of the year interviews and those types of things. Right now, I don't get the feel that he's going anywhere. I feel like he was at least half genuine in his, you know what, I want to stay in one spot and build a winner. Like I do feel like there is, he sees that with O'Shea in Winnipeg. He sees that with Huffnagel. He sees that, like he's been around Wally Buono. He's been around, the Montreal when they were winning all the time. So I think that there is, as much as he kind of won as he traveled the league, I do feel like he might just do exactly what he said, which is to stay here and try to build something that wins year after year. So, I don't get the feeling right now that he's going to bolt. I might have a different feeling at the end of next year. Who knows? But
again, the eternal optimist. I mean, let's face it, they won the Grey Cup in 15, and we all thought, no, man, we're really poised to build something big here, and he was gone. But he was gone for essentially what he's got right now.
That's true.
The titles of GM and head coach, defensive coordinator, DOPP, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that he'd be even allowed to take a lateral move. Like, that's just not allowed in the league. You have to have some sort of, now they could throw some sort of, assistant president or something on there, but I don't see them wanting something that's outside of football ops.
Right.
And I think at this point, he's done enough that maybe he's looking for a bit of legacy, and having a legacy of, again, taking this team from the depths of despair of 2019, don't forget, wasn't great.
You didn't say that right. It's supposed to be the depths of despair. Like you actually say it the right way. Come on.
I know, like the albino. What are you gonna do? So
all of us saying references that nobody else gets. That's
exactly. Go watch The Princess Bride. You'll love it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
That's the pit of despair. All right. Anyway, so Derek Mapstone's asking who thinks that Wilder and Lawler will return. We already talked about Wilder. With the price that Lawler would be asking, I just don't see it.
Unlikely.
A lot of people have talked about on social media Lawler going back to Winnipeg. I don't see that they need him. I mean, why would they spend? I mean, he's $300,000. Even if he takes a pay cut to, 20% off of that, that's still $240,000. And I just don't see Winnipeg saying, no, we're good with some, especially with Dalton Schoen having come in. Now he's obviously not a Lawler, but I mean, he's incredibly talented for probably, not necessarily league minimum, but probably pretty close. As a rookie contract. So where would they have the room? I would see him being offered more for a team that's been on the bottom that needs to go up a little higher. Like maybe maybe Hamilton, who needs maybe a few more weapons, maybe an Ottawa or a Saskatchewan even, right? I mean,
I agree.
That's where I see him going more than anything else. Patrick B. Penguin says, I like Deron Carter's odds of returning better than JWJ or Lawler.
That's pretty good odds, honestly. Yeah.
I don't like that, but yeah.
I like Lawler and I like everything he brings.
100%.
If he believes in Jones and will play here at a bit of a discount from the contract from this year, I think there's a chance, but I think it's kind of slim.
It can't be a bit of a discount. I mean, we saw Farhan Lalji tweeted what Dylan Mitchell's contract's going to be. He's got a heck of a raise. If he's around that 150, 160,000 a year over 3 years, some of which may be guaranteed, there's just no room.
Fair. That's
right?
fair.
Yep. I mean, we did take
certainly
a large.
I didn't see Farhan's tweet there yet, so
we took a certainly some salary jump when David Beard left. He was the highest or second highest paid offensive lineman in the league, so that freed up quite a bit of change, especially when you've got some of the younger guys on the offensive line. But it's not enough to make up that difference to get 300,000. Plus, if you look at some of these other teams that are doing so well, it's their offensive line that is the strength of the team. And in order to do that, we're going to need to free up some more money on that.
Very true.
Although, we had one of the most expensive offensive lines in 2022 and until David Beard was traded. And let's be perfectly honest, that didn't do so great. So it's getting those right people in there.
Yeah, no, that when that free agent list comes out, that's I guess where all of us are looking. Who's on O-line? Right. Okay, yeah. DB, O-line, DB. Wow, this sounds awfully familiar. It's like we've done this before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Every year. Coach Vic, I think, speaks for most, if not all of us. My good at the this season was the friends I gathered with and shared time with at an amazing facility. The game itself was second.
Yeah. I agree.
And Morley talked about it at tailgate. It's just one of my favorite parts of the year, especially the last few years. With 2021, you weren't here for that. 2020, none of us were. So the fact that we can be together, we joined with our football family back at Westivus, back at tailgate. To me, was just a highlight of 2022, no question.
Yeah, I agree.
Derek,
other than the fact when I came out of the game this past week and my car did not start,
well, yeah,
that was
true.
A bit of a low moment, but in that parking lot, but all the rest of the moments
could
were
have been
great.
worse.
To be fair, it encapsulated this season perfectly.
Exactly.
It sure did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Now we get to go. Nope, not going home. Nope. Yeah.
Derek Mapstone is just completely floored. Kayla said there are 2 quarterbacks above Masoli for her. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, if he was playing, it may have been.
All right. Well, we should get into that. So let's say you've got 4.
No, I will not choose.
Adams. This is Sophie's choice. Kayla's choice here.
Kayla's choice.
Did you not see my tweet of like that. If it was the trifecta, I would probably have a heart attack and die of excitement if I had all three of those quarterbacks at the same game at the same time. Like, no, I won't choose. You can't make me.
Well, we had to try.
Although, I mean, someone did email or mail me. So, I mean, kind of has the edge, right?
I see.
Just on that factor alone.
Take
Plus, there's
notes, Rayford. Yeah.
and
That's right.
Mazzoli, please come on.
Well, that narrows it down.
Doesn't it?
Yep. Again, birthday boy Ken Ludwig says, happy birthday, by the way, man.
Yes, happy birthday, Ken.
If we didn't say it before. Coach Jones does not strike me as someone that would attempt to utilize two quarterbacks.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at that. I can see the comments later on, and Clippy just said someone about to get pleasant.
Oh, that letter's getting drafted up by lawyers right now.
Oh my, that's outstanding. Okay, sorry,
Lord,
Mike.
Cliffy.
Yeah, I see what Ken's saying, that he picks one guy and stick with him. But
Yeah, he does, but let's not forget in 2014, 2015, we had packages for our third string quarterbacks. And now that we don't have that third string, I could
This
see
one?
him. Yeah. This one? No.
This one? Ooh.
No, that was the second string.
Oh, fine. Either way.
Sorry.
No, I know what you're talking about now. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, I guess yeah, because we had Nichols for the first part of the year.
But Riley was injured.
Yeah.
so we
I
had
guess
Nichols
he was still
and
second
Franklin
string.
with the
Yeah,
first
okay,
and second spot.
Fair enough. All right.
A certain
fine.
number 5 in
Yeah.
2015, and we had White in 2014
Yes.
in those special packages. And so I could see that happening again this year. So we'll see.
Now the question is that third string quarterback play like that, is that Kyle Loxley or is that Trey Ford?
But because Loxley's a receiver on a lot of these plays, I think it would be a Ford kind of thing, because we don't have a traditional third string quarterback on the roster right now.
Fair.
A lot of people talking about some of their bright spots on the field. Ed, our Penguin, says special teams with a heartbeat was a bright spot for me.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us, especially after having talked with Christian Salisbury last week.
Mhm.
I mean, if we didn't love him before, having him on the show, he just seemed like a genuine guy who wants to do his best. I mean, he loves his mom, right? So I mean, hey,
Yeah.
how bad can he be, right? And we love his mom. So I mean, come on, this is just fantastic all around. Chris Agar says special teams, the growth of Corn Dog. Leanne's going to take that and run with it. And
Correct.
Enoch and Morgan on defense are my goods.
All right.
And Kevin Brown, of
Great
course.
goods.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, KB goes without saying, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and again, Dylan Mitchell. Again, right? Mitchell seemed to be really strong in those first 2 games, but I mean, he's had a touchdown in almost every game he's played in.
Well, and you know what? And Mitchell gets extra points for me, which I was going to say when we had David Morley on, because like they were saying how nice it was to just have those chats. And yeah, Dylan Mitchell just comes over and sits down in the stands and has a conversation with us after practice. Yeah. And I'm like, this
is
fantastic.
Gold.
Let's have a great chat. Yeah.
They get it right.
Just a good dude, like totally worth every penny of that contract. I'm very happy that he's going to be here. Yeah.
We've also always said
we can maybe take him to Lingnan. We'll have to see how that goes. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, we've said before, like everyone attached to the organization is in marketing. I don't care if your title says marketing. You are marketing this game every moment you are around. Anyway.
Well, may I preface that for a moment?
Yes.
Just with
no.
James Morley. Well, too bad. Shut up.
There it is.
Oh, there's the pleasant. All right. Yeah.
Someone's pleasant.
So my friend Carla, her and her sons actually got selected to go on field to welcome the players back after halftime.
Nice.
And of course, they got to meet while they're junior, naturally, because that is who he is, very charismatic, and he loves to get the kids involved. But anyway, so the boys loved it, but one of her sons, Joshua, was so gutted because no one had a pen and he couldn't get Wilder's autograph, and he was so upset. So that just goes to show you how much of an impact a small little meeting can have on a kid, on anyone, but especially a kid. So you're so right when it comes to marketing. They love it now. They want to come back next year.
Yep.
Well, we talked about this, but look at Nathan.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had one day where he hasn't worn that hoodie since the fan appreciation event.
Yeah.
Like the season seat holder event. I don't think that there has been a day that's gone by that he hasn't at least worn that hoodie or the hat or both.
Yeah.
And never in my life did I think that he would want a jersey and have a player that he wanted to put on it. Yep. This year, jersey, Arsenault.
Yeah.
Get him to sign it. Like he was all in. And it's amazing how those little things make such a difference, right?
Yeah.
100%. Thomas is the same way. He asks me on a daily basis when the next season's trading cards are coming out, because he insists there is going to be, because it's the 2022 season, there will be a James Wilder Jr. and there will be a Trey Ford card and there will be a Christian Salisbury card, and he wants one of each of them so that he can one day get them signed.
Awesome.
You know, it's just because these are the guys that came up and made time and talked to these kids who happen to be at training camp or at practice and have changed lives, just like all of us when we were younger, even a few days younger than now, have interacted with some of these players, and it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Ken Ludwig's asking, so with John Ryan retiring, who is the holder going to be next year? Leanne volunteers as tribute. So,
yes, you go, girl.
Because she says, she's good at holding. So
that seems
Careful
like it's
now.
another thing that was going on a weird t-shirt.
That's a penalty. I'm just saying.
Like
10 yards,
offside,
100 yards, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a restraining order. Sorry.
That's different. Slightly.
Yeah, it's different kind of. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I have a feeling that they will either look into free agency again, or I haven't done all my like early on research on the draft. So is there a kicker that they may be drafting to bring in, or are they going to look at
a punter?
Maybe a punter? Yeah. Or do you think that they're even going to look at is Hutchins ready to take that next step? Is he?
It could be
he's
Hutchins.
been around for a couple of years, right? So
could be Mescal too. I mean, I think he may have actually just been released, but now with John Ryan there, I mean, we could see him back because he's a global, and having a global on your roster who can do that, kickoffs and punting.
Would be a big
solid thing, right? And he's had a full year being on the practice roster, so who knows, right? Just because someone's been released now does not mean they will be not here in 2023. So
yeah, true.
How true.
Our favorite Mike Aussie says the Riders having big issues. I love that. Ken says it was so good seeing them eliminated from the playoffs. I know a lot of people really love to see a little Schadenfreude for the rectangle. I try not to hope for bad things to happen to other teams because God knows we've had enough bad things happen to our own team. But selfishly, again, just if they do badly enough that they fire that head coach, just saying.
All of us are like,
I mean, we need a special teams coordinator. And if you guys figure this is the end, you want to move on to something different, we would be willing to take him off your hands. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
and if he's under contract for next year, that means you'll pay the difference between the head coaching salary and what we'd pay him as a special team. But anyway, we're already doing that with Jason Moss on your side. So come on, do us a favor here, huh?
Well, Moss's would have been up this year, would it not?
This way you're coming up, it'll go off the books. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like this was the last year we had to do that. Right?
Correct. So,
and I don't, because I thought Elizondo was only 2 years too, right? So his should come off this year.
I believe so. And Presson
and Brock,
and the coaching cap is going up.
Yeah. So
in dollar amount only, it's not going to change how many you can have.
Right.
I think it's going up 150,000. I thought I read.
I think some.
A
I
little
think I
extra
heard
cash.
something.
I still
Yeah.
think it's a stupid thing. I think they need to get rid of the coaching because it's coaching and football
agree.
ops staff. So that
Yeah.
includes guys like your training or not your training staff, your equipment managing staff, your all those people that are involved, your DOPP, et cetera, et cetera. Like, get rid of it. It's done nothing but harm, as far as I'm concerned, the league since it's been implemented. But that's just my soapbox. Yeah. And then again, talking about with the Saskatchewan loss, now there are apparently many cheap Grey Cup tickets available. So Leanne figured that might be a great time for a honeymoon. Not.
No.
What?
Also, yeah, great. There's cheap seats to the game. There's absolutely nowhere to stay, but there's a cheap seat to the game.
I just drive in. What the hell?
Drive in for the game and then drive back out.
Yeah, it seems
Why
like
not?
a fun time.
Or
Sure.
just
I can
stay
sleep in my
outside
car.
Regina.
Outside of Regina, like Lloyd. That's about as
There you
close as
go.
we're getting.
It's halfway.
There we are.
I'm going there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I like my people there, let me tell you, because I would not go there otherwise.
Such a boring drive. Oh, yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
like
Should
you're on
I
a treadmill. Yeah.
They see if Brazilian ties home or not? How do I like my liver these days?
Not.
Okay.
Godwin says that tailgating was the best thing about this year. It was great seeing Kobe and his family coming out. Even the last game, he wasn't able to go to the game, but he popped by because he was close, so he wanted to make sure he got to tailgate. So I feel I didn't have any chili in a bread bowl for him because it was popular, right?
Delicious.
Oh my!
4 degrees outside and everyone's freezing. So, but again, it was great to see him, and I only met him last year, so it's been great, sort of building that football family. So that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris Agar says a ton of credit goes to the Turf District for having a fantastic time, ready for all at the tailgate. Cheers to you three and anyone else that helped. I mean, it was certainly a lot of fun. I have to give a lot of.
To me, that's a total labor of love. Like it
is absolutely, but I mean, it's still a lot of work, and I mean, I have to give a lot of thanks to my better half because she's the one that put together the chili while I was working. So I mean, all I had to do was just schlep it out to people this time. So again, like you say, it's a labor of love. Even if we weren't doing anything else, we'd be doing the tailgating and going to the games. But it's a chance to spend time with our family.
Was that her recipe, by the way? Because it was delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of
so
watched her make it. I tell everyone, but I don't want to die. So
fair.
There is a special ingredient of cocoa from CH Cafeteria in there, which was absolutely delicious.
Interesting.
Yes, very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That is also a reference to something, but I don't know what it is. I just know that it's
Borat.
Very nice. How much?
No, no, I had it for something else. But anyway, that's fine. Okay, carry
on. Chris Agar says, I'm guessing that's referring to this particular item. If you listen closely, I think you can hear Capper opening his wallet and making an offer as we speak.
That's what.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a few things in the trade pile now. So.
Yep, that's a good way to do it. Yep.
Whereas Jared Cooper says, "Beauty hats, the memories." Absolutely, that 2003 Grey Cup hat. I love that hat.
That was a great hat. That was
that.
The big puma on the side.
Champs right down the middle.
Love it. Yep. Even says, Taylor Field.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
The old CFL logo. Like it's. Yeah. This one still has like the tags on it. Like yes, Wilson.
Oh, still got a tagger on that.
Tag still has it. Yeah.
It can't be touched.
Never been worn. That hat. That's pretty cool. Yes. Dog.
So here's a new theory too. Patrick B. Penguin says, no offense to Andrew, of course, but he votes for Coach Vic to be the new in-game host.
Oh, see?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, we just wanted them to play the videos up on the Jumbotron, but I mean,
step up.
That works for me.
Step up, yeah. Coach Vic on the sidelines telling everybody to get loud for your defense.
Let's be positive, people.
Yeah. Yes.
There will be no booing. Yeah.
Ouch.
Out. He just stands at the bottom and says out, and the person leaves. Like they don't
Yeah,
have to.
yeah.
There's no battle. They're just like, oh, sorry, coach. Away they go. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
apparently I'm going to find someone else to sell this bobblehead to.
Okay.
Cliffy D says, reviewing the expenditures for the flight deck and shaking head at bobblehead purchases.
All right. Well, their loss.
Yep, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all right. You know, it's going to be here for a bit. You know,
Excellent.
I can hold on to a few things for, you know, the right people. So get to a good home.
You are good at that.
There was a bit of a discussion on would we pick first overall? And as it stands now, I would say no. But it's going to depend on what Ottawa does versus Hamilton. Now that Hamilton has secured their spot and has nothing to play for, that's assuming that Saskatchewan, with Saskatchewan losing.
Yeah, it's already locked. Yeah.
It's already locked. So now if Ottawa wins, then we pick first. If Ottawa loses, they would have the same record as us. And then it goes to total points for and against in the head-to-head we had versus Ottawa. And we beat them quite soundly in Ottawa, and they only beat us by, was it 7 or 8 points here?
Okay.
7 points. So unfortunately, we scored more. Unfortunately, we scored a lot. Damn it! So that would mean we would win. So we finished higher than them in the standings. So unfortunately, no, unless they tie or win against Hamilton, we will be picking second. But I don't know if there's a consensus first overall pick. And with the CFL draft, it's always hard because the best person in the draft might be so good they don't play in the CFL. So
right. Well, the other part, although I did hear that this draft was pretty deep.
Yes.
The other part of that is, I mean, we've traded for a ton of draft picks, so we've got to have a fair amount of draft picks. And does it matter? We had the first pick overall last year, and we turned that around too, right? So I don't know. I don't want to put a lot of faith in saying we're going to pick in this spot, because we know that they'll be looking at what is the angle of getting the guy that they want, and if they can get him at 4th and trade the second pick and get a player or the rights to a player along with the 4th pick, like they'll do
another pick, or the 4th overall pick plus another one in the 3rd round or something,
right? Like they'll. I know. I think we were really shown last year that Jones is not afraid to move around those picks at all, no matter who the top guy is that will be playing in the CFL. So, so I don't think he made a mistake getting McConzo or Ford,
not at all,
in the first round. So, so I'm excited when we get to draft day to see what he does, but there's a lot to happen before we get to there.
Yeah, lot's gonna happen.
Do you know where the actual combine is this coming spring? Like, do you think it'll be back in Toronto?
Dude, I don't even know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. So
I'm just checking, because one of these years, I would love to go and watch the combine live. Like, that'd be
awesome.
I've been watching the stream the last few years with Marshall Ferguson and listening to those guys chat while these guys are playing, and I'm like, this would be cool to just watch it live and see, watch how the coaches are looking at different guys and calling the different guys out to go head to head and all that stuff. I think it would be fun to watch.
That would be great, but one of these days.
Yeah.
Oh, so again, lots of other questions here for Dave and Morley. Unfortunately, we didn't get around to it.
Sorry.
When those two gents are on there's certainly a lot of stuff that's getting talked about. And let's be honest, we just love to hear them talk. So
that's very true. Yes, exactly. Yep.
So unless we were making this a 6-hour pod and we started at 4 in the afternoon,
during Morley's nap time, we can't do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can't do that, right?
That's right. Yeah. What was there any questions in there that we can actually give our opinion on, or not really?
Well, there's always questions we can ask, right? We can ask things like they were asking what was Morley's favorite Antler Up episode.
Oh, yeah. I
That's
was gonna
hard.
actually ask about that.
Yeah, there are some tough ones for sure. Just it was really weird seeing some of the guys who played the interview and be like, "Oh, that person's not here anymore." Weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we did that a couple of times this year as well.
we sure did. So
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I love the series. I thought it was great
Mhm.
having that, a half-hour one-on-one time talking with a player or a coach or a executive, or they even had someone who had nothing to do with the team, but was a producer for TSN.
Yeah.
Just happened to be from Edmonton, which I thought was pretty cool with Chris Edwards.
Yeah, that was pretty
So
cool.
yeah, so not that Chris Edwards.
No, because there wasn't any penalty flags at the same time.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what we know. That's the difference between one Chris Edwards and the other. Yeah.
Penguin says there's going to be a record number of discount game jerseys at the locker room sale this year. When you've got 103 people that have, had a jersey made for them. Wow.
True. Yeah.
When is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
usually?
Usually the first weekend in December.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hearing December 3rd is what they're suggesting, and they still got to work it out. So they were supposed to be having a meeting this week, or maybe it was even this weekend, on when they're going to be having that. So it will be in person this year. It won't be online again, which is
Way
too bad
better.
for some of us. So much easier online though. You don't have to line
Not
up.
as fun.
Yeah.
That's true.
Not as fun. Yeah. And
I
plus,
don't know if I'd get a helmet this year if I.
different to
Yeah.
see them, like to be there
Yeah.
and see the stuff. And it's a visiting event as much as anything. But but I do yeah, you're right. It'll be after they did that season seat holder event with the 40%. I'm curious to see how they do the locker room sale this year.
Yeah. I mean, for
Yeah.
the game worn stuff, oof, they only had 10 helmets last year. Hopefully, they're going to have a lot more helmets this year because I am going to get one. So,
It's weird. You don't
yeah,
usually
so I'll
get
be lining up November 30th, starting
Okay.
November 30th.
Yeah.
Lining up. So,
So we're bringing the new generator and a heater. To
yeah,
the
pretty much. Yeah,
coming in. That's perfect. Yeah. Okay.
let's make that happen.
Perfect. I'm there with you, super fan. I'll
Yeah,
book-
Coach
book
Vic.
time off tomorrow.
And I know that Jerry Cooper had said this earlier as well. Maybe they're trying to get rid of the white letters with all those actual player jerseys. They had certainly enough going through there. It's like, listen, we can't get any yellow ones. These are gone. Not a problem. Watch
Not
this.
a. I'll just cycle through 190 players. Could you use all white numbers, please? Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if we're going to have yellow next year, maybe the year after, but at some point we're going back to yellow numbers. So,
Yeah.
that will happen, especially with someone like Victor Cui in
Mhm.
charge.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. So, we will see. Ken Ludwig says, scary question. With that many people coming through, does that say something about the team's scouting? I don't think so. I think it's just they had planned to leave no stone unturned this year. So they were going to get people coming in here and trying them out, because there are some people that look good on film that just don't work, especially in a completely different system like Canadian football versus American. A yard off the ball, unlimited motion, extra DB or extra receiver, that kind of thing. So I think you just needed to see them in at least camp or practice, if not a game. So I don't think that says much about scouting other than they were probably very tired right now. So
Yeah.
Well, and
the
you need
other
to build
part-
chemistry too.
yeah, 100%.
the other side of that though is look at what we said when with Dave and Morley, they were talking at the start of the show. Dylan Mitchell, Kevin Brown, Christian Salisbury, Alumba was the one that Morley was talking about.
Yeah, he was great.
Right? You like those guys are all brand new, and obviously, the scouting guys found them and
Yeah.
got them here. So, if there wasn't any guys that really stood out, like the next building blocks of the team, I would say, yeah, maybe there is a problem, but they found some real
And they
gems.
found some of them late. I mean, let's not forget Dylan
Yeah.
Mitchell, Kevin Brown didn't come until later
Correct.
in the season. So
Yeah.
if we would have been just like, now these are the guys, you dance with the girl that brung you or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
No, we wouldn't have found these people. And I mean, they are worth finding.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, we will see. Cliffy D says, after I had said my predictions in the East semi, never in a million years would I ever have thought someone would say, I trust Trevor Harris more than I trust Dane Evans. I responded that may say more about Dane than it does about Trevor. I just look back to that again, 2019 East semi. Absolutely dominant in one game and disappeared in the second. Obviously, there's other things at play in that particular thing, but one of the knocks on him has just been consistency. So when he's on, and if he's not,
well, you look at the Grey Cup run that he had with Ottawa too, right?
Yeah.
The
2018,
the West or the East final. What did he throw? 6 touchdowns or something? Like, it was just ridiculous. And then get into the Grey Cup and crickets. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Cliffy D says, I don't hate TH7. I just don't think he's the answer. He's good at padding his stats, but doesn't strike me as a true leader. I'm not sure what a true leader is in this particular case, but for whatever it is, he just doesn't fit the mold of what Cliffy likes. So that's fair.
Yeah. That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yeah. We had the, now we're on the section where Leanne was wondering where she's getting the hello, Leanne. So thank God she got it there. So that's good.
Yes. Yeah. I did make sure we get that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Leanne figures we should just layer these one-liners on the back of Turf District t-shirts, the best of 2022.
It's not a bad idea, actually. The best of 2022. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are going to want to have the best of any 2022, but yeah, I think you can mark it into 2023.
We found the bright spots. Come on now.
We did.
We found bright spots. Yeah. We
Kayla
were
was
mostly
pleasant.
optimistic.
Yeah, Kayla was pleasant. I mean,
Probably.
Come on. So glad it's a video podcast.
Oh my, yeah. Kayla's just like, I'm not responding. Yeah.
Chris Agar says,
you need more wine for this particular podcast there, Kayla.
No, I'm good.
She says it every time we talk to us.
Yeah.
So Chris Agar says, if you release overtime, the show might, and just show how fun it is, the numbers may get a bump. You'd never know.
Oh, maybe. Guess there's always a chance. Yeah. But I don't know if anybody wants a 3-hour podcast. That's the thing. Yeah. It's a long show, but it's okay.
I've seen longer. I mean, I've certainly watched a lot of YouTube videos, especially in the last 2.5, almost 3 years. But yeah, I've seen some shows talking about TV shows where they're 3.5, 4 hours long. So weekly.
Wow.
I mean, I don't listen to them all, and you can also make it play at like 1.5 times speed.
That's true. Yeah, and then
sometimes that's amusing. We're a lot of fun at 1.5 times.
That is precisely how I listen to it.
Yep.
It's a lot. I listen so that I can make sure it sounds good, but 1.5 times tells me just fine how we sound. Yeah.
Perfect. Chris and Patrick Penguin talking about will Chris Jones leave before the contract is up. Chris says, I don't think he's going to bail like previous tenures. All we can do is have faith he will be honest in saying he wants to settle down. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can have faith in that, but how you feel now may not be how you feel about things in 2 or 3 years. So it's hard to say that. I don't think he's planning on anything right now, in my opinion, but we'll see. Yeah. Patrick B. Penguin says, if CJ bolts, it won't be until he has turned things around. He wouldn't want to leave with a losing record. I don't think he wants to leave necessarily, period, unless it's a better opportunity. I mean, if the University of Tennessee called up and said, we want you to be our defensive coordinator, I don't care what his record is now. He's gone, right? This is his state team, right? I mean, he's from East Pittsburgh, Tennessee. True. So if the University of Tennessee Volunteers are calling, and I mean, I don't necessarily wouldn't blame him if the Edmonton Elks came and said, we have a job for you, I'd be going to my current company and be like, see ya.
Yeah.
There's loyalty, but at the same time, it's like, come on. These are
Yeah.
dream jobs, right? So
Yeah.
Chris Agra says, I'd like to see CJ play Moneyball with the team. Better to have a very good next man up scenario than one star player that takes up too much cap room, referring to like a Kenny Lawler, right? So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. We're getting close to the end here. Kobe says, this was my first year hanging out at the tailgate. Absolutely loved it. I will be back and hopefully setting up my own. Outstanding.
Ooh, that would be
Ooh.
awesome. That would be
Yeah, I mean,
fantastic.
More the
Yeah.
merrier.
Yeah, that's the thing that I love about tailgate is it's so much fun having all sorts of people around.
Mhm.
For those that didn't see it, Miss Grey Cup 1976 was wandering around the parking lot at tailgate, which was kind of fun. I got a chance to sit and talk with her for about 10 or 15 minutes. She was very generous with her time. She looked a little startled when I knew who she was. Specifically when I asked if that was a real sash, and she said yes, and I said, "Oh, are you Joe Zaharko?" And she's like, "Who the hell are you?" Um, I said,
Yeah.
oddly enough, your brother said that when I ran into him in 2010, and she's like, "Who are you?"
And most of us are all like, he's super fan. Don't you know? Like,
Yeah, but knowing details about some random woman you don't know generally doesn't end well.
Yep.
fair.
So yeah, so I can certainly see, but yeah, she was Miss Edmonton Eskimo at the time in '76, and she was one of the only 6 Miss EEs that won the Miss Grey Cup pageant. So it's one of
Oh,
those
cool.
things that sort of sticks out in my mind. Plus, again, her brother Dave did play for us in '79,
Yeah.
and he was an Edmonton Husky and Alberta Golden Bear as well. So
Nice.
again,
Okay.
I couldn't name every player on the team, but some of those people do stand out. So
Yeah.
I also like how they moved. They had K Rock come over with their
Yeah.
tent and their concert, and how they turned it down at this last game was great too. So you could actually like enjoy the music while talking to each other. And it was
Very
also
much.
cool that the Stingers were there, and same with the Team Canada for the upcoming basketball championships.
Yeah. That
So
was
I love to see like grassroots all supporting each other. Like I can't say enough things. Like I love when I see Stingers and Elks do things together.
Yep.
My heart soars.
And Nathan now has a Stingers lanyard that goes everywhere with him as well.
See? That's
So-
awesome.
Love it.
Sure, he'll get to. I'm sure we're gonna have to get to a game next year so that.
Oh
he
yeah,
can,
chat.
so he
Nubian
can-
and I were setting it up.
Oh,
Elks
nice.
fans going to a Stingers game.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So, do we wear green and gold or yellow?
Actually,
and
there
blue?
is a guy that I've seen on more occasions than not at Stingers game in his like gear, green and gold
Oh,
gear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So,
Fantastic.
I mean, I will be wearing Stinger stuff, but it's
Well,
cool. It's cool if you wear green and gold.
Sure, if
It's
we
cool.
go and it's liked, then we'll have to go to the team store and get something. I'm sure
There you
that's
go.
Yeah.
Or wear
That was
both.
nice. That was the nice thing about the game where the day when the Golden Bears played Calgary and then the
Mhm.
Elks played after that. I thought that was a lot of
So
fun.
cool.
You and I were both there at that game, and it was very weird looking around and seeing a whole bunch of green and gold, and then realizing none of it was Elks stuff. It was all U of A stuff in the morning. Very cool to see. At least sort of fit in because we were wearing green and gold as well. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
every so often people are looking like, "Who are you? What's
Yeah.
that you're wearing?"
Yeah. Well, we're fit. We're trying to fit in, kind of.
Well,
Yep.
yeah. If you want more football, just go to a U of A game. They're still going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then of course, you've got the Huskies and the Wildcats.
Sure say.
Hey, you can even go to a Bonnie Doon game because they were green and gold. So there you go.
There you go.
Oh, exciting.
See? Jim Capper does say, Andrew, Mike, Kayla, thanks for a great broadcast. He's in huge respect. Thanks to all of the people, to me, that have been joining us, especially those not especially, but to those in the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the other, new media guys out there. Scout's another one that have been joining us. It's been great being able to talk with everyone throughout our recordings. And it's just been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this season having, this video interaction with
Mhm.
people. I loved doing the podcast before where it was all audio with the Periscope before the game,
man.
before the recording and everything else. Every so often on my Facebook memories or whatever, something will come up from like 2016, even after, I joined, or 2017 when Kayla joined, and seeing these older Periscopes and things like that. I saw the one with Bud Steen
Bud Steen. Yeah.
recently. Absolutely one of my favorite ones. How cold was that game? Well, let me tell you, it was cold.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my god. What did
Yeah.
he say? He froze his dick off? Is that what he said?
Something
did he
to
froze
that.
his dink.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Leanne's reaction was absolutely perfect on that.
Yeah.
Just,
Oh, it
he
was-
froze his what?
What? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was yeah. There was so many those early Jed periscopes too, right?
Yeah.
Like they were awesome. So I'm glad we've ported it to the podcast where we get the chatter during the show. And you guys are getting a chance to connect, which is like our whole goal was to meet more CFL and Elks fans and to bring people together. And that's, that's the part of what is happening with the show, which we love. And hopefully next year I'll have a computer that will make it so that we don't all blur out or lose Dave Campbell at any possible moment or things
I think that
like
was on Dave. That was
I
on
really
Dave.
think
Well,
it was his
we'll
wife.
blame Joe.
Still,
We'll blame Joe.
it's
Always blame
But-
Joe.
I didn't
but
quite
it
hear him
was-
when he said it the first time. I thought he kept blaming his wife. It was my wife. I'm like, wow, dude. Seriously.
Wow, that's really not gonna go. Yeah, it's Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But that's why we want to keep doing this and find new things that we can do, that give us a chance to interact, right?
And I think that the podcast, especially since you started it in 15, has built a community.
Mhm.
Right? Not only with the Edmonton side of things, but we've also joined that community with the podcasts across the country and even into the States. We've got some, the Americans in the podcast. Hell, we had one in Tokyo for a while that we were interacting with, and it's just building this close-knit community of people that podcast and people that listen to podcasts. It's just been, or in this case, watch. A lot of fun. Coach Vic says, all the best, everyone, and good luck to those still in the playoffs. Thanks, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla. Your commitment and work in the podcast is appreciated. Your friendship is gold. Till we meet again, # is it June yet?
To be fair, I just show up. It's all these guys. It's
But
all these
the
guys.
reason we are a video podcast is because of you, Kayla, because you have the greatest facial expressions for all of the
I need to
conversations.
step. I need to step it up. I used to be waif by steer. I've calmed down in my old age.
Yes, your advanced years.
Oh yes, that's what it is.
I have some grays. Don't be fooled.
Oh, it was bad enough watching the Miami Steelers game yesterday and realizing that the head coach of the Miami Dolphins was 38 years old, 39 years old.
What
there
am
are
I
players-
doing with my life? Oh my
there are
gosh.
He has 17 years experience as a coach in the NFL. There are players that are older than him. It's just, crazy.
That's
nuts.
insanity.
Yeah. Cliffy D says the three of you have fostered a tremendous environment here and remain the benchmark that the rest of us in the CFPN aspire to be. Love interacting with you all. I don't know if I could say that we are the benchmark, but we certainly have enjoyed our time here, and I enjoyed again being able to interact with the people that come on the chat or come on the show or talk to us on social media or in person. It's been amazing. This has been certainly a special year for me for all the stuff we've done on the show and in person with a lot of the family. So
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I would also agree with you to say to Cliffy that I don't think we're the benchmark, but we like to have fun, and even when our team stinks, we like to have fun, and
Especially when our team stinks.
yeah,
exactly.
I just
So,
hope that people enjoy. They seem to enjoy coming week after week and participating or downloading or watching later or whatever, and get something out of it. And I mean, the whole point of the podcast was just to sit around and talk football with our friends and family, right? So
which we do. Yeah, which is awesome.
Week after week. And we get to take a break. Sometimes you need to take a break from your family.
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
Like
It's not
I
even the
said,
family we need to break from. I mean,
I love you all, but good Lord, if I don't get a nap.
yeah. But
Don't know
again,
what's
if someone said, listen, we're going out for wings, you want to join us? Yeah. I don't have to write a script for that.
That's right. Exactly. I don't have to do any pre-production for that.
Yeah.
I just have to show up and eat. Those are my kind of parties. I like those.
Those are my people.
Yeah, that's right.
Leanne says, what does Maya Rudolph say on Bridesmaids? Y'all are a stone cold pack of weirdos and I love you.
Next year we'll have a show that's titled Stone Cold Pack of Weirdos because that'll be
very fitting.
It'll be a hostful one.
It would look great on the back of a shirt.
It really
jersey.
Would. Yeah, exactly. Pack of weirdos. Yeah.
Actually, I think
we could get 3 jerseys and one will say Stone Cold and the next one will say Pack of and Weirdos, and we can all stand back to back. It'll be perfect.
I claim the weirdos already.
Damn it!
Oh,
yeah. Weirdos.
And when you're a line, you just a Stone Cold. Everyone thinks you're a wrestling fan.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially if your number was 316.
Yeah, exactly. Or 69. Anyway, carry on.
I think we're coming to the end. Patrick Penguin says, I went back in the Twitter history and found Leanne's epic Dunnigan tweet. I'm still laughing. That was truly a special moment.
That was a highlight of this year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good old Milken. Autocorrect is truly... Yeah, there's a website called Damn You Autocorrect. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah. Anyway,
I think it's at the end there. I mean, as we come into the off season for us, I think we all can say we've got some fun things planned for the off season and to next season.
Nope.
And
yeah. Nope.
Oh, way to throw them off the scent.
Sorry. Too honest.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I personally want to thank both of you as well, making this fun week after week. It's just been a great ride, and especially after the last 2 years of watching the team on the field, at least it's been still something to look forward to getting together, and doing the show week after week, and I look forward to more to come.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you, Superfan, and thank you to both of you for putting up with me and being a hard ass every week and making sure that you guys show up. And
a hard ass? Oh my gosh!
Hey, are you guys doing this? What are we doing? How about this? Can we do this? How would you like this? Like, I mean, I think if we scroll back, I know, Mike, you and I will get going in the conversation, and the text conversation, and Kayla will be like, "Yeah, I'll catch up at the end." But
yeah,
but
I'll just delete all of it.
In fact, majority of it is me being like, this is going, okay, we're doing this. Now I have this, we're doing this. Anybody want to come to this? How over this?
If I have to scroll, I just usually will read the first couple and then just go down to the bottom and be like, I assume I have it, but I'm not sure. Because sometimes it's just like, I'll get a notification and then all of a sudden it's like, boop, 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 boop. I'm like, oh my gosh. Group chats give me anxiety.
Don't you have a life? Like, come on, people.
I know. Like right in the middle of my work day, I'm like, what the heck?
Like, this is it. This is my life right here. That's how this works. Yeah. Oh my, yes, that's we could have a lot of fun with that. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. Thank you to everyone who joined us live, and the audio version will be out a couple of days late this time around, just because I'm not in town, but it will get out. And but we really appreciate you guys joining us live. Yes. and being part of the show for the whole year. And we will update you as we get to our plans to be back. And thank you to both of you. So for the final time for season 8, for Commissioner Kayla and Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you when we do.
For listening, find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.